pages at The One Mic Show. And then, of course, Pablo, remember, at Highlight, at everyone, at followers, just tag that, and everyone else will be joining The One Mic Show. And then follow us on Instagram at One Mic Show. We are also taking live calls tonight at 202-683-4570. Press *5 to speak. Save that number. Now, later tonight, we'll revisit the woes that Kenyan artists are experiencing regarding royalty payments. The Kenyan Copyright Board earlier this week handed over files for investigations over missing funds to DCI and EACC. That's the Department for Criminal Investigation and the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission against the Music Copyright Society of Kenya CEO Ezekiel Mutua. Please let us know in the comments if government should start collecting royalty money on e-Citizen. Please type in the comments. Na bila kusahau, tunapokea mziki toka DJ wetu machachari mleta habari DJ Mosh Fire, na tutadunda kule viwanjani na Mika Och, jezi yake nambari 7 mgongoni, akituletea habari za michezo. Na moja kwa moja toka Kilimanjaro Studios, mimi mtangazaji na mwanahabari wako mpendwa Ali Badawi. Kwetu wananiita mteule na wengine mniite mjukuu wa Masai, because I'm Kenyan by blood, American by design, Masai by choice. Sichagui, sikagui, na sibagui. Karibuni.
Now, let's talk politics.
Now, this hour we'll talk about President Ruto's invite for a state dinner to the White House and the impact this may have. We'll also talk about Avo's bill in Virginia. Now, Avo's law is legislation proposed following death of Kenyan Avo Otieno in the hands of Virginia police last year. So I want you to stay tuned for that and drop a comment or two. And I'm your co-host and producer, Ali Badawi. It's Friday the 23rd of February, and we are streaming live from Kilimanjaro Studios outside Washington, D.C. Now, please remember to follow us on The One Mic Show on both Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And remember, tag us on the comment section at followers, at highlight, at everyone, so that all your friends can get tuned into The One Mic Show. And on panel with me tonight is Mr. One Mic Kamakawa. Ruth is out tonight. Sports anchor Mika Och will be joining us via Zoom. And our resident DJ Mosh Fire has already been live, rocking us on the decks. And also not forgetting that our super producer is none other than Mubelwa Bandio. And I also want to take this opportunity to welcome all the guests who are already here, all the wapenzi wachangiaji who are already in the building. I can see Washeke, I can see Slay, I can see quite a number of people who are already tuned in. Asanteni sana. Please let us know what you're tuned in from and what you think about the conversations we're going to have today. Now, Slay was telling, I think this was to DJ Mosh Fire, stima ikipotea, that sweater better light up the studio, because Omosh has a bright sweater, and he'll be telling us more about it. And why he wasn't here last week, he'll be talking to us shortly.
I swear. I really thought that Slay was on my side. But welcome to the show, Slay.
Okay.
Iyo nyuma ya tent.
Utajua hujui.
Forget about it.
Okay. And DJ Moshfire will shortly be telling us why he was absent without apology last week. We're going to talk about that.
Sure.
And then Slay, I think this is what Shek is saying, ulisema leo ni siku ya violence. So Slay hapo ameanza na violence, but it's all good. It's all in good jest. And then I can see Slay is saying that she's actually on your side of Mosh. So that's yet to be confirmed.
Yeah, that's yet to be determined, and I think nyuma ya tent ndio best mapema and we see how we can negotiate, because clearly amekuja na ubaya. Yes.
All right, so we're going to get started today because we have some very interesting conversations that we want to have today. And before we get started, I want to come to you, Mosh Fire. Of course, you were missing in action last week, and wapenzi wachangiaji and the rest of the audience were asking, where's DJ Mosh Fire? So just give us a brief on why you were not there last week. DJ Mosh.
Thank you to our listeners, those who care to see me. Slay, I see you. Yani nianze wapi? On Thursday evening, I was minding my own business when somebody decided to run into me as I am making a left turn to get into my street to go home. Basically, they were overtaking on the blind lane, or should I say opposing.
That was close to home.
Boss, from there to my house is, if you're walking, it's not even 2 minutes.
Wow, okay. So you were almost there.
Boss, I was there. Not I was almost there. I was there. Suffice it to say, my car is a write-off.
Okay, but you're okay.
I'm okay. I'm going through therapy. Let's see me behind the tent. But yeah, I don't wish this on anybody.
Okay. But there was no, like it
Except
was just the
Kenyan.
car. It was just the car damage, but no injury, no.
I had a passenger. Will go nameless because nikisema jina yake anaweza zusha.
Yeah.
But we both have the same injuries. Mostly with motis, you get neck, back.
Whiplash.
Yes, neck, back, leg.
Okay.
It depends. Or like a pinched nerve, which
Okay.
and
We'll
if
say
you
that
have
again. Neck, back.
neck, back, leg. And when I say
Unajua,
leg,
uno unaibelembea
My neck.
My
My
back.
back. That's what I was gonna say. Yeah.
no, our hizo vitu are soft. That's some sound-ish. But unajua sasa, when you get those sorts of injuries, it depends on also you in particular. Because if you have like a pinched nerve, it can go anywhere up and down your
Yeah,
side.
that
Like
can be very painful.
Yes, so that thing moves either up or it moves down. So it all depends.
Okay.
So
And then the sad thing about accidents is that you start feeling it 2 to 3 days later.
mine was
After
the next day.
After the adrenaline has gone off.
Mine was the next day. And I will advise anybody, especially if you live in the state of Maryland, if you're in an accident and si fault yako, ata kama ni fault yako, nenda hosi. Let them call the ambulance, go to hospital. Trust me, you'll thank me later.
Okay, if you're in any kind of accident.
If you're in an accident, nenda siptali.
Okay, now your accident, was it moving? Were you stationary or were you moving?
I think I was moving very slowly. You know, you slowed down because you're expecting opposing traffic to pass, and then you're indicating to go left. So then now you're vukering from your lane to go across the other one. Then you enter the road that's crossing or the road that you're pretty much going into.
Yeah.
And what happened for me is, as I am making the actual turn, when I'm about, I would say not halfway, but I'd say quarter way into that lane, that I got hit. So there was no bracing for impact, no anything. The only way I would have seen this person is if I was looking in my rear view mirror as I'm making the left turn.
Okay.
That's the only way I would have seen this person.
Okay.
And after they hit me, they continued going.
Oh, so hit and run.
No. Like the momentum, the speed they were coming with.
They were driving that
yeah.
fast.
They were driving that
They were
fast.
driving
The
fast.
car kept going. They kind of looked like they lost control, and the car slid across, not across a lane, but it slid on the same lane, but what would that be? Diagonally, and then is when it basically shot across. So I don't know if that person either may have had a concussion, a brief one or something, lost control or regained, and then they kanyagada petroli and vukad across and ended up in an embankment. But this is the time also I would advise people, if you can afford it, get a dash cam.
So
That is actually true.
yeah, so a dash cam to permanently have on your car.
Yes, which means that it gets activated when you're moving, right? You
Okay.
activate it when you're moving, it will
Yeah.
record, because normally those SD cards will record for quite a while, right?
Yeah.
So assuming it's just a regular trip that you're taking, you're going to the grocery store, you're picking somebody, whatever,
Yeah.
it will record all of that stuff.
Is that's admissible evidence? You know,
Correct,
like in
correct.
Okay.
Because now it's he say, she say, and the thing about it is no person stopped, because I had a car immediately behind me.
Yeah.
That person didn't stop.
Okay.
They just like, when they saw that, my moti, I pulled over, I've stopped, and I think maybe I had opened the door, my passenger had come out. I think they looked, they're like, akosawa. They drove around and kept going.
Okay.
So they didn't stay to say, oh, I witnessed
to
it,
be a
or I saw
witness,
it happening, because even them, they were on West. Like,
Yeah.
since they were behind me, this person had to pass by them, but on the opposite lane.
And I can understand, because I would also not want to be a witness of something like that.
I've learned, if I have time, I'll stay and be a witness.
Okay.
Because sometimes
yeah.
that's the difference between that particular person who is in the wrong getting either a TICO or something or other.
Yeah.
Because in Maryland, if the cop has not seen it and then there's really nobody hurt, they're not issuing a police report.
So and that means each insurance will take care of your respective insurances will take care.
They'll take care of, and then they'll also do an investigation internally to see if there's anybody who can be at fault based upon what they see, the damage of the vehicles or both vehicles, any marks on the road and things like that.
Yeah.
So they'll do their own assessment.
Okay.
Now, if there was somebody who got hurt and that person went to the hospital, not got checked on site and then left, have to go to the hospital, then they have to write a report.
Okay.
And that's the key. When a report is written, then whoever is writing the report in terms of the cop would actually do some investigation, and they will have also put in the statements from both parties and say, okay, this happened. Party A said this, party B said this, blah, blah, blah. We noticed damage here, yada, yada. They'll work out all of those things in the report. Okay. Even if somebody doesn't say, I take fault, or because they could say, I was on the wrong side of the road, or I was overtaken on this side. And if you're overtaken on the wrong side of the road, you basically have violated traffic rules.
Okay.
But what's interesting is this person didn't get a ticket.
Oh, wow. Interesting. But now the good thing is that now you're swimming in, like insurance money that they gave you for the car. But we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that shortly.
But don't say
You might attend.
Slay might even come outside from in front. She can come to the front of the tent.
Yeah. So let me read a few comments here that are coming in. I can see... let me see. Pablo says, Omoshema ukweli wewe ni wale wa my car knows home. Pole lakini glad you are safe. And then yeah.
Haki ya Mungu. Yani I was slapped, kicked, and then given what is it called, a sponge with water to wipe my forehead.
Okay. And then Pablo Father says, good advice on dashcams. They provide very vital evidence.
I'm telling you.
Not most other motorists will want to be witnesses. Many stop, help, and leave, which is
correct.
Very true.
Correct.
Yeah.
Or even if they hand you their information, that's good enough. The cop doesn't have to, because that person can say, I actually witnessed the accident.
Yeah.
And it's even easy. Sometimes if somebody say, oh, this guy wasn't there, you can pinpoint. Cell phone, blah, blah, blah. All of those records are there. And also something that I didn't realize was, even though the cops did not take they didn't write a ticket. They immediately, when they started talking to us, they had their body cam on, which they didn't tell us. I don't know if they are supposed to tell you that they have the body cam on. And then they were also recording like audio. So it records both video. I guess they had both video and audio. And then the statement, whatever statement they're hearing, then they're writing down, I guess, either verbatim or as best as they can write it.
So by law, every time they have an interaction with the civilian, the body cam has to be on.
Okay, so they don't have to tell you that the body cam is
on. I didn't know. In fact, I was surprised that, and when I talked to the cop, now the cop told me, oh, by the way, you're not going to, later on, immediately when this happened, after everything's said and done, they give you what they call information exchange, which basically is the other party's information, blah, 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 insurance, yada, yada, yada. And it also has your information on it as well, right? Yeah. And then everybody gets the same thing. Okay. And then they'll tell you whether they're going to issue a report or not. Now, if there is only property damage, nobody, again, I keep saying this, nobody's hurt and gone to the hospital. No report is being issued. And it's, I think, really at the discretion of the cop at that point, because Maryland law does not require it.
Okay. All right. Interesting. Now, Apa Washeke and Slay are saying, Washeke says, Slay naona tukienda Maldives na insurance money, and then Slay is saying vacation. Now, based on this experience, as so that we can get to the topic of the day, do you think it's worth having full coverage? Now, I don't know, like how much money you've been given, but especially if you have a car.
What on in the Maldives, bro?
Let me not call it. Let me not call it. Like an older car, but a car that's not newer. Like
a paid off car.
Okay, so my car was older, paid off. I haven't seen a car note for 5 years.
Okay.
So
what year is it?
It's an 09.
09, okay.
And I have a lot of miles on the car.
Okay.
So first things first, if you have a lot of miles, forget about it. And then also it depends on which insurance company you're dealing with. So I'm not going to name the insurance company, Juice, Japata, your check, Bado. But so what they do is they come and they do the assessment. And if in the state of Maryland, if the damage to the vehicle, or should I say the repairs of the vehicle is going to be 75% or more, the value of the vehicle, they will not fix it. They will write it off.
Okay.
So, and they're allowed to do that by law. So basically, they'll try to do a figure where they do a comparison within 100 miles of where you live for a similar vehicle, similar everything, and see what those prices are. They find an average, and that's what they would offer you as a settlement. And then they come and pick your vehicle. Okay. So you kind of have to figure out. So if you're a guy like Omosh who used to weka miles and say, Ali, kujeni tuende tukienda, miles ziko hapo ni kama unalipwa.
Yeah.
So in fact, I was the perfect candidate for them to write off. But what I did is I held fast. And if you're somebody who doesn't think that the value is right, then hold fast because they'll always lowball you.
Yeah.
So what you do is you go out there, you find the comparables, send it to whoever the adjuster is for the damage on the vehicle, and then they will then look and increase. So I held off and I got like maybe another K. But again, on paper, right? So
only one more night in Maldives,
I guess. so now remember, even with getting that money, you still have to now go through the issue of shopping for a vehicle. This is not the best time to shop for a car, by the way, because of taxes,
interest rates.
Not necessarily interest rate, taxes.
Or because people are buying cars using the tax money.
Correct.
But it's also tax time,
So cars are priced higher.
Yeah.
At this point, and then after that period of after April, then prices go down. Yes.
Yeah.
So and then also remember it's the cycle of vehicles, right? Like the new vehicles start coming after that.
Yeah.
Right. So you think that the older vehicles now would be cheaper, but they're not going to make them cheaper because they know the guys are coming with tax money.
Okay.
So it's an interesting time to purchase a vehicle.
Okay.
But again, lessons learned: take the ambulance. Get a dash cam if you can, and there's a witness or somebody even stops, and if you ask them if they're get their information, because you really don't know what the other party is going to say.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Mika.
Kuna road trip tulikuwa tunaenda na wewe ndo ulikuwa driver. Yes. Hebu replace hiyo gari haraka haraka. Hebu road trip tunaenda na gari gani kwanza tujue what's the new thing you're getting.
Mika leta stories za nyuma ya tent. Mika yuko it seems Mika has
I think today he's on fire.
Mimi nataka kujiomosha
Mika, right now I have a rental vehicle. So I can't even tell you what car ish. Yeah.
Si tunaweza kwenda nayo rental, utakuwa nayo bado mpaka that time.
Boss, now he has another story. He has another story that I would give to you about rentals.
They put caveats.
And the insurance company giving you the rental.
Yeah.
Once you guys have come to a settlement, the rental is a no more, no go. It's not there. They have taken it.
Yeah.
Because the check that's handed over to you is akin to you having a car in their mind.
Yeah.
Right? The fact that you have to go look for a vehicle, hiyo ni shauri yako.
Yeah, that's not fair.
Yeah.
But
so
that's how insurance companies operate.
Yeah, you would think that they might say, okay, you know what? Even if we write it off, we'll give you like 2 weeks. Because normally you get about 30 days for them to repair the vehicle, up to 30 days for them to repair the vehicle. And then there's also a dollar amount, I think, that goes with it. And a dollar amount per day, then, whatever. So you would think that they would have some compassion somewhere and say, you know what? This is also an inconvenience. Let's even give this person like 2 weeks, 14 days or something like that. Zero, boss. In fact, the adjuster appeared the next day at 2 p.m. By 4:30, my car was written off.
Where?
Same day.
All right. That's DJ Omosh Fire. That's the reason why he was absent without apology last week. But lessons learned. Like the one thing that I'm trying to calculate, because I also have, one older car that I still own, and I'm trying to figure out if it's
so the full coverage. So I had full coverage on my vehicle. Now, what you have to remember is what are your limits that you're being given with this full coverage, right? So you have to actually go line by line and see what is it covering. Is it covering X amount for bodily? Go ahead.
The value about full coverage, most people just look at it when you get an accident and they look at it at what you get back, let's say, for your car, right? But what full coverage actually does is protects you for so many things. Let's say, for example, you are the one who was at fault of that accident, and that injury has kept somebody out of work, and they sue you.
Correct.
Right? So if your limits are high enough, they can cover that. Because if somebody sues you and the insurance can't cover the amount of that person has sued you, they'll go after your property.
Yeah, personally liable, yes.
Yeah. So what happens? That's where the full coverage comes in.
Okay.
It just doesn't cover the vehicle alone. It covers you from a lot of liability, from a lot of owing debt, and also protects you financially. Because if you owe somebody and you can't cover it, and your insurance can't cover it, they're going to garnish your paycheck
Your wages, yeah.
until they get the amount that they want. So that is where the insurance comes. And that is why one of the things they usually tell people is like, don't take the state minimums. Try to live to take it as high as possible.
If you can, and then also your deductible. You know, the deductible that you take from you.
250, 500,
so even though
1,000.
Even though right now, from that check that they're supposed to give to me, they've already taken the deductible.
Okay.
Then now it's up to me to go after the other insurance company to get my deductible back. Once they admit liability, and if they don't, then what happens? This thing goes to arbitration. They have an insurance arbitration, which so they'll get a third insurance company to review evidence from insurance company A and B to see how who is liable for whatever bills. So let's say I have medical bills, lost wages, I don't know what, blah, blah, all these things, right?
Yeah.
Which I could get from my own insurance, but then my own insurance would then now go after the other insured because based upon the evidence and the investigation, it's the other party's fault.
Problems,
So
insurance.
It's just a lot of things that are unnecessary just because somebody literally was not paying attention.
Insurance to me is one of the most crooked businesses. They come a close second to banks. Like when you talk about
I think they're in the same WhatsApp group.
Legal Ponzi schemes.
I think they're in the same WhatsApp group.
And
banks are worse.
Yeah, banks are worse. Yeah. So on top of the pecking order is banks. A close second is insurance company, and I'll talk about that one.
Level number 3 ni IRS.
IRS, yeah. But now IRS as a wow, it's not a business, but wow, pia they're in the same category. Pablo here saying, I went on a ride with a cop one time and he told me even cops don't fancy writing accident reports. They will most of the time ask motorists to pull on the side and sort their issues unless the accident is a bit serious. And then Stephen JJ anasema sasa cannot imerudi. And then
Stephen JJ, can we remove him?
And then Washeke anasema buy a smart car.
No. He will buy a smart car.
Cecil will buy. Cecil buy a smart car. Okay.
No more road trips.
No more road trips. And then
you're being corrected over here, Gade.
Yeah, Sleodora anasema not to IULs. Your IULs tutaongea. We're going to talk about those another day, so that we
IULs zimetoka wapi sasa?
I think she's bring out she's channeling. It's her inner self.
Insurance
akakuwa triggered na IULs
100.
Anyway, wanna move on to the next topic, and I want to remind the listeners that we are still going to be talking about the AVO bill. DJ Moshfire will be talking to us about it. That's in Virginia, and we're also going to be talking about wars that are facing Kenyan artists, with the new development. So please stay tuned. But on to the topic of the day. We know in a recent press release, the White House announced that President Joe Biden and First Lady Jill Biden will host Kenya's President Ruto and First Lady Rachel on a state visit on the 23rd of May this year. Now, this visit is to mark the 60th anniversary of Kenya-US diplomatic relations and commitment to advance peace and security, expand economic ties, and defending democratic values. Now, the two leaders will discuss ways to bolster cooperation on trade and investment, technological innovation, climate and energy, health, and security. Now, the press release concluded by saying that the visit will affirm that U.S.-Kenya strategic partnership will further the vision set forth at the U.S.-Africa's Leaders Summit. Now, we want to go, this is going to be right before the summer on May 23rd, a big state visit. Mike, there's a lot of questions regarding why President Ruto is being invited to an official state dinner. Now, before we get to this specific invite, maybe you can tell us, why are these state visits, these official state visits, considered a big deal? Or is this just for show?
Okay. It's a big deal, but it's also for show. Mainly because when you're the invitee, you sort of have to look at one, who is being invited, what capacity that person or that individual is, right? It's akin to inviting somebody for dinner.
Okay.
Like a mama. if you invite her for dinner,
Yeah.
it's on your own terms.
Yeah.
Ideally, that's what you're saying.
And it means something.
It does.
Yeah.
You know, you're not just saying at yo we are BFFs who engage your box at ECG what. No. There's something about it. There's a motive, and especially like now when it comes to countries, there's always a strategic. Reason.
Yeah.
It could be depending on who you are.
But now
where you
he's
come
talking from the US perspective.
No, from the US perspective. Simply is, from the US perspective, there's something that the US is trying to
achieve. Yeah.
Because remember, Kenya is strategically placed, is in a very interesting position geographically, right? Don't forget, the US potentially nominated Kenya to lead a force to go to Haiti, right? So I mean, I think there are few things that the US wants to accomplish, and that is why they're being invited. You're being invited because it's a strategic move. There's certain interests. There's certain interests that the US has, and they're trying to not necessarily pitch or convince. They're telling you, Gade, it would be in your best interest
to do XYZ.
And that is what.
We're going to get into the weeds of those reasons.
Kenya is the most stable country in that region.
Okay.
Yes.
I think Bandio may have something to say about that, but we'll get into the
kule
weeds.
kwa jirani kule hakuna stima, hakuna chakula.
Mika.
Shida tupu.
We'll get into the weeds of this.
Hawana umeme, hawana dola, hawana maji, hawana stima, hawana sukari.
You know Bandio is tuned in, so he might have something to say.
But they don't have sugar at Kagera?
But now, Mike,
yes.
The White House state dinner, is this okay? Because like it came on the news, and people are wondering, like why is Ruto being invited to a state dinner? Because there's a lot of things happening in Kenya. But have we had something like this before with previous presidents, or is this something new? New to Kenya?
No, you've had UK has been invited.
President Kenyatta,
Uhuru Kenyatta.
Yeah.
During Trump. Trump's career. MO1. I believe it was Bush or
MO1. I think it might have been Ronald Reagan.
Ronald Reagan.
Yeah.
Okay. And Kibaki.
And Mwai Kibaki.
Yes.
Yeah.
So and the interesting thing is, we know they.
So basically, all our presidents, or except.
Do you remember?
Except number one.
I don't know.
Number
about
one,
Jomo.
he never used to travel.
Number one never used to travel. He didn't get on a plane.
Travel, yeah.
In fact, he did not get on planes.
The only part you're gonna see maybe Jomo out of Kenya is maybe in Ethiopia. Like he never used to travel, or maybe Tanzania.
And how did he get? He went by road?
I don't know how he got there.
It's almost like
he used to go to Mombasa by road.
Correct.
He used to go to Mombasa by road.
Correct. Yes,
Yeah.
but I don't remember ever seeing him getting off a plane.
And I think during those days, presidents were very fearful of being overthrown.
Mi nilimwona hata kama menini. I even went to see him lying in state.
Wow.
Ulimwimbia State House?
Nilienda State House. I saw him lying in state.
Oh wow, yeah. So,
No,
in fact, the rest of us were not.
I snapped.
Ulimwimbia ama kumwimbia?
No, sikumwimbia. I was not part of Tawala Kenyatta.
Yeah. And Apa Ndunge is asking, how do I get invited to this state dinner? Please stay tuned to find out how you can get invited to this state dinner. So back to our former president. So
yes.
we've had
MO1, Kibaki, and Uhunye.
Yeah.
They have been invited. Now, I can't speak for MO1, but I think what we had with Uhunye, there was some few things that were going on.
Yeah.
There was that there's a treaty or a deal that was
the trade deal.
The trade deal.
The US-Kenya trade deal.
That was to be permanent.
Yeah, so that's where it was. I don't know whether that's where it was birthed or the idea had already been there.
Yes.
But they were coming to officialize it during the
officialize it.
No, the trade deal started during Obama's time, but Obama didn't finish it.
No, I think the trade deal started during Trump.
No. Trump's time is when now Sasa they sat down.
Well,
but let's.
Well, we have Gemini, we have ChatGPT. Yes. The trade deal, that was Trump's baby.
Trump
that was Trump's baby.
Trump was trying to get it done, but it actually started towards the end of Obizi's term.
We someone will confirm that for us. You know, I still insist this
Well,
was Trump's baby.
ile time watu
But-
walienda Obizi akienda Kenya na kina with all those billionaires.
During
wasn't
the
that the birth of
Africa,
the trade deal?
yeah, the Africa. You remember those African in it?
No, that had nothing to
Yeah.
do with a permanent trade deal. Let's remember, you know, like there's certain agreements that countries can have, but those are, for example, AGOA. AGOA is a deal with African countries that has a sunset clause. A permanent trade deal is something entirely different. Only one African country has a permanent trade deal with the US, and the US doesn't have many of these.
Isn't that Morocco?
Morocco is the only
Morocco is the
country.
only country, yeah.
Yeah, they did, you know, like doing one with South Africa, ikakata. You know, like
Ikagonga ukuta.
ikagonga mwamba. You know, so the only trade deal, the only African country that has a trade,
Actually,
a
Ali,
permanent
you're
trade
right.
deal with the US is
You mentioned
Morocco.
GPT. It's
Yeah, of
Trump's
course.
baby.
Yes,
Started in
this was
2020.
Trump's baby. This had nothing to do with Obama, because we're talking about a permanent trade deal, and I think this is one of those things that most people in Kenya, the average and even the above average, have not understood, you know, like the consequences
So
of
that
this
was
trade deal.
So was the UK one the same time?
The UK one the same time as
Because remember
Uhunye.
the UK trade deal
yeah.
was almost it's almost like they were back to back. The UK trade deal and this one of the US.
What
But
do you
Kenya,
mean?
okay, so
Oh,
same,
the UK. You're talking about
the UK one.
The
yes.
UK trade deal.
Yes.
I think
The British.
this came after Brexit. It's something that came after
Okay.
Brexit. Yeah.
Okay, okay.
And I don't know whether it's a permanent one. I'm not very familiar with that UK one. It came after Brexit.
And that one still they haven't moved on it, right?
Yeah.
It's they are still in the same WhatsApp group with this one, but this one seems to be
Yes.
moving.
No, this one actually, what
this
they're
one is on
saying
ice.
is it started in 2020 with Trump, but then it was launched, I think it was revamped and launched as the Strategic Trade and Investment Partnership on July 14, 2022.
So this trade deal, this was Trump's baby. You know,
okay.
like
Okay.
let's
Yeah.
So that was one of the main reasons why UK, where Uhuru Kenyatta that is, was being lured, you know, like into and brought to a state dinner and everything. So we also had, I think, Mwai Kibaki's trip to the US. I think it was in 2003. I was fresh, you know, off the boat, you know, like from Kenya at that time, and I think that's just when he had become president.
Yes, because
Yeah.
he was sworn in that November 2002.
Yes.
No,
He was sworn in. He was sworn in.
Couldn't have been November. He
So the
went in
election. The election
December.
was on
It
the
must
last
have been
day.
in January.
The election was on the last day of December.
Yes, it must have been in January.
It was in January
Yes.
when he was sworn in
Yes.
2003. Yeah, and then Moi's trip was in 1980. He was still fresh. Remember at that time, you know, like
Jomo had just passed.
Jomo had just passed
before the coup.
and it
No,
was,
Moise was after 80.
are you sure?
Remember ndio alikuja na huko.
No, but are you sure?
That was 84.
No,
Yes.
no. But was that Moi has visited the US?
Oh,
after.
so you're
No,
saying the
Moi
White
was
House.
was
US
state
mara
dinner.
mingi omoja,
Understood.
mara
Yeah.
moja.
Understood. State dinner. Okay.
The one that Ouko outshined Moi,
Yes.
that one was later. It was still during Reagan's time.
Yeah.
Yes.
But in 1980, when Moi was still a rebel, you know, like he was still a rookie
Yeah.
president.
Yes, I remember he came. Yeah.
When he was still a rookie
Yeah.
president. And I think at that time, the Cold War was at its height. And I think America was just trying to establish, you know, like with this
Partners.
new president,
Yeah.
that we are still going to have
Bases
a
and all
partner.
of that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and notice these things happen, you know, like when presidents are still fairly new. Because Ruto, you know, I mean, he was elected. I mean, it's barely over
Over a year.
over a year, 18 months. So it's still fairly new.
August
Yeah,
2022.
it took her 2 years, but
So still fairly new.
Yeah.
When Moi was brought, he was still fairly new. When Kibaki was brought, he was still fairly new. Now, notice Uhuru was not brought when he was fairly new. You know why? Because Uhuru was the first president who, I think, boldly faced East. Because
Yes.
Kenya, we've always been subservient to the West. Whatever they say, we do. So I think that was also, you know, like an indirect message, you know, to President Kenyatta that we are not gonna tolerate this. But when Trump came in, you know, like he saw a gap with this trade deal, and I think with this trade deal they're trying to see, you know, like they're basically trying to counter China, and this is now my opinion. It's not said in fact. They're trying to do this to try to figure out how they're going to get, because China is now taking a lot of African business. So America is trying to position itself back, and Kenya is one of the experiments to see what they can strategically do in other sub-Saharan African
And
countries.
I think also, talking about the trade deal, I think the contents of it, if I'm not wrong, and I think we discussed that, we were not sure exactly what the contents were and how much they favored Kenya. And by favoring Kenya, I mean,
what are we getting out
what
of
are we
it?
getting out of it?
Yeah.
You know, you'd see articles being written about, you know what, we're going to open up. Ideally, it's like we're going to become a dumping site. You know, so I think there were details to that we were not privy to. I don't even know where. I can't even say where we stand right now on that trade deal.
So I advise Kenyans to go check, the trade deal from. And now we don't have a deal yet.
We don't have a deal yet.
We have objectives from both sides.
Yes.
So if you go to the U.S. Trade Representative website, you will be able to find the U.S. objectives. And then on the Kenyan side, I don't know whether it's the ministry, because it was moved around. It was moved around after Cabinet Secretary Moses Kuria, started.
And actually, when the labor.
The labor secretary, was it?
Yeah.
Or was it the U.S. Trade Representative? It was the U.S. Trade Representative who's working on pushing this trade deal. So whoever it was suggested that they don't want Moses.
They don't want to
Kuria.
work with that guy.
They don't want to work with him anymore in the negotiations.
Then there was reshuffling.
Yeah. So then there was.
So what they're saying is that United States and Kenya have continued to hold the negotiations. They held the second negotiation in October 2023. That was between in Washington D.C. between October 4th and 7th in 2023, and they had already done another round of negotiations in April, and also this was coming after they had agreed on that background with the STIP in July 14, 2022. So what they're saying is that the negotiations are still ongoing. So as I guess Ali, you're right in saying that most probably this dinner is to try to get those negotiations continuing. But the last time they met was in October 2023.
Yeah. So I have, I have a theory, and some of these theories I have are typically based on, experience that we've seen before. So remember this trade deal, this was Trump's baby. Unfortunately, COVID came and things were delayed, so that was, that was an excuse to delay it. And I think Trump was working on the basis that he thought he was gonna win the election and go on a second term. Yeah, so they wanted to hold it until the second term. But now President Biden comes in and things have changed. President Biden knows this was Trump's baby. So President Biden is like, we're gonna continue with it, but I'm gonna strategically try and see what's gonna be of benefit to my administration.
Yes.
Now, the first thing that happens, if you remember that particular time, is that whoever was the ambassador at the time when Trump was president, I think his name was Kyle Carter, the guy who applied for the job online, like you're applying for McDonald's, and he got it. Yeah. So as soon as President Biden was declared the winner, shortly after, this guy raised his hands up. Oh, I think it was after the swearing in. Before time you were talking, akasema, hey, mi nimetoka, because he knew he was gonna be one of the people who was gonna be axed. And then who's appointed Kenyan ambassador? Meg Whitman, former HP CEO, a business person.
Yes. And
what does Meg Whitman do? Over time, she even takes a step and says that Kenya's election was the
fair.
most credible election. And here you're talking about a diplomat talking about a disputed election. And Americans don't do things randomly. Remember when President Ruto, because I want to go step by step. Remember when President Ruto came to visit the U.S.? Who was chaperoning President Ruto around? Meg Whitman. That is very weird. You know, like an ambassador
Amekuja kutoka base.
who's supposed to be operating at the base is coming and being your chaperone and introducing you to people in Silicon Valley and all this stuff. So there was a lot of shenanigans, you know, like happening.
Was that when he met Google and
Correct. That's when
Exactly.
she held his hand and walked him.
Yeah, and then that's when people
Around.
were promised that they're gonna get jobs on laptops. I don't know.
5 million jobs.
Yeah, I don't know exactly how that went. And then remember, President Biden gave a shout out to Ruto in a speech to the UN. Remember, American presidents don't just give random shout outs.
And the shout out was because they were going to lead the efforts in Haiti.
In Haiti.
Yes.
Yeah.
We remember that.
Is that before the cop died or after the cop died?
So the cop dying, this is something very recent.
Very recent.
Okay.
This is something very recent. But just going by the words, because the White House released a very short press release, but it was so deep. And this was like poetry in what they did. Because, you know, like I'm one of those people who likes opening up the hood
Type C.
to understand
Na si charger.
what's inside here. So I don't know if Omosh is buying a car. You know, those people who are excited about sunroof, paint job iko sawa, you know, sijui rims na ka vipi. Mimi mtu nataka kufungwa engine, you know, like I want to know, you know, like how long do these cars last?
Yani this kinyagarika amechukua akaniweka wapi?
It was just a random example. You know, I'm not saying that's what
Lakini
you're
Omosh, you were
doing.
excited by the take on your rental. Wewe unajua gari zoko na vitu zingine.
Yeah.
Boss bana sijawahi ona gari hata iko na USB
Vitu za nyuma ya taxi
ya
zinaletwa-
kucheza ni
Yeah.
USB-C ya kucheza nini?
Yeah, I know people who get excited by
Na
iPads.
inasoma hard drive yangu ya 2 terabyte.
Yeah. So this short
telling you.
statement. So let's go back to this
Yes.
short statement, and you can find it on the White House website. We're going to share it.
Whitehouse.gov.
Whitehouse.gov. This press release by Karine Jean-Pierre, the White House press secretary. It was short, but sweet in American tastes. But for the rest of for Kenya, because this is a Kenyan president's state visit, there's a lot of loaded things that I think was said without being said. Yeah. So let's get started. When you go back, when you recap, it's a very short paragraph. So the first thing they say, this is a 60th anniversary of US-Kenya diplomatic relations. So that right there is an introduction to make, you know, like 90% of the people, ni sherehe tu. They're just coming to acknowledge.
Yeah.
So this is to close your eyes. And it was a good coincidence.
But it's very interesting. They say 60th anniversary of the relationship because again, Kenya is at 60.
Kenya is at 60, and,
right?
and
so
that's
they have existed.
So the 60
together
is
for the
when
60.
is when America and Kenya officially opened diplomatic ties.
Got
So that's fair enough. It's a good coincidence because if this happens at 62 years, then you can't say Kenya at 62.
Hena kaodo.
So 60 is a good number to keep, you know, like doubting minds. You know, just like you know,
Keep you
it's-
busy, keep
yeah,
you
they're
busy.
just celebrating. But now, what you need to pay attention to, America doesn't normally do, you know, like these centennial celebrations with all the other diplomatic partners.
Or friends.
Yeah, or friends. They don't. This is not something they normally do. So this was a good coincidence that they included this here. Higher. Now, they talk about peace and security is one of the issues that they're gonna deal with.
Snap.
Now,
In the region?
now think of, it just said peace and security.
Okay.
Going back to what they said the visit is to mark the 60th anniversary of US-Kenya diplomatic relations and commitment to advance peace and security. Let's just pause at peace and security before we go to the other ones. There's certain things that we already know.
Yes.
Kenya is already, you know, like sending its police to Haiti
Correct.
to fight on behalf of the US because it's the US that's funding that mission. Remember,
Lakini pesa zimekulwa but
yeah, remember at this point, America doesn't have an appetite, or the Biden administration
No.
doesn't have an appetite to send soldiers abroad
No.
on either peacekeeping missions or
Or
on whatever mission.
anything.
Yeah, there's no appetite for
No,
that.
none
at all.
No
whatsoever.
boots on the ground.
So
No
now,
boots on the
so
ground.
now what they're doing, they're looking for all kinds of partners. So to me, even this one for Haiti is, I mean, people in Kenya seeing it as a big deal. I think this is just a test on year one. You know, like, let's see, you know, like how this one is gonna work, because if a Kenyan cop is killed by a guy called Barbecue in Haiti, let's just say randomly, that's not gonna be news in America.
No.
It's not gonna be on the news in America. Nobody's gonna care about that. But if an American soldier is killed, or an American Marine or whatever,
Republicans
Yes.
will be up. Yes.
so this is something that they're strategically doing.
100.
And now Kenya has opened themselves up to do all kinds of missions for the US. So Haiti is the one that we have on paper.
Ilikuwa Nyiro 1.
Yes, Nyiro 1. We haven't gone there. You know,
Not
like
yet.
there's still some legal issues. And also recently there was a delegation here. You know, unfortunately there was a Kenyan in that delegation who apparently even had made a presentation and died in his hotel room. You know, like we still don't have
Any
information
any
This guy,
about
information.
you know, this guy was a top cop.
Yeah. And he was very young. He was in his 30s.
Yes, he was high. He was highly regarded,
Yeah.
high up there. For me, I think like this was one of those guys who must have been really, really good as a either commando or something like that, and that's how he went up the because he was a commander
Yeah.
at what 35.
He was, I don't know exactly what, but he was in his late 30s. I believe he was in his
yeah,
late 30s.
he was not for how we know Kenya to be when you know when it comes to those types of positions, they are normally older than 30
Yeah.
something. So he must have been exceptional somewhere.
But now he died mysteriously in his hotel room. I don't know whether the coroner's report has been issued or if it's going to be made public.
I don't think they will.
We don't know about that because this was government to government. So
I do not think they will.
I don't think this will be made public.
Yeah.
For security
Yeah.
They will not.
purposes.
Yeah, and I think one of the parts that was unknown, even to their families, is that they were actually in the U.S. Then from the U.S. that delegation was going to go to Haiti, but that was supposed to be, I think, a classified part that
Chinyamaji.
people are not
Yeah.
supposed to know. But because this blew up, that's what happened. But yeah, so we have Haiti happening right now, and then we also know at the moment there's wars raging, Ukraine and Russia. There's a war, you know, like in Gaza, you know, that has been, I don't know whether to call it a war.
It's a genocide.
Or just Israel genociding.
Occupation.
Yeah.
Apartheid,
Yes.
genocide.
So
call it
right
that.
now, because I think the way, you know, like the Biden administration is looking at it is that these things are not necessarily gonna end tomorrow. We know, you know, like on the Russia-Ukraine war, you know, like Russia had already been recruiting people from other parts of the world to go and fight on behalf of Russia. You will
Yes.
remember there was a
and
time
giving out citizenship.
Yes, you will
Yes.
remember there was a time when there was a Tanzanian who was killed in the battlefront somewhere in Ukraine, fighting on behalf of Russia. So I think this is one of the things that also the US is trying to measure, because they can't take their soldiers to Ukraine. Can we, you know, like see if we can get people from other parts of the world who can donate their talents to go to the front lines? And now this is just now speculation. This is not, these are just some of the things that could be in play.
If they can do Haiti,
Yes.
it would not be out of the realm of supposition or thinking about
Yeah,
being deployed elsewhere.
exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you
But then
cannot.
the-
Where's the Kasamati? It's out of. It's,
No,
it's out of
the
Kenya.
thing you have to realize is that there is no military action in Haiti. That's the difference. So when it comes to them getting people to actually go and like convincing other nations to say, because the thing that Russia has already said, and they said it clearly, is that if any militant of any country steps foot in Ukraine, they're taking it as a direct provocation and they're going to
An
attack
act of
that
war.
country.
Yeah, they're taking it as an act of war. And here,
Yeah.
remember, we are at the cusp. You know, like, I mean, I'm not a prophet of doom, but this is the closest. I'm not saying we're close, but this is the closest we've been to a world war since the end of the Second World War.
Yes.
You know, because, you know, now once these alliances start forming, you know, like, because I think the US is now trying to measure who will be willing to set foot first there. You know, and because a lot of countries are unwilling to do it because no one wants beef with Russia. So I think this is part of the things that are being calculated. And then remember, there's also Gaza that's happening. You have the Houthi rebels who've been creating chaos on the Red Sea. I mean, Kenya, we are not on that side of the Red Sea, but I think we're close enough. So I think, also the US is thinking out of the box. They don't want to go, and especially because you've labeled the Houthis as a militia and not a military. So it's going to be kind of, outrageous, sending your military to go fight a militia.
Does the law even allow for that, to go fight a militia?
So
I don't think the U.S. law allows that. But I could be wrong.
So I mean, I think when it comes to war, there are so many things that the U.S. can do.
And then you also have to go through.
You have to go through Congress.
Yeah.
But there's some leeway.
Things
there's some leeway that the president has within a certain number of days if there's a provocation, and that's the reason why they can launch these attacks in Yemen. If it goes beyond a certain, I think, time frame, then I think that's when if you want to declare war. Now that has to go through Congress.
Yeah, but the Houthi guys, how do you go there? What has the Houthi guys done to the U.S.?
Well, what's happening right now is that the Houthis are blocking the waterways of ships that are supplying Israel. Now, these waterways that they're blocking are affecting so many other businesses because this is the shortcut.
Yes.
From that side of the world to the west. So now ships are being forced to go all the way around the Cape of Good Hope,
as opposed to if they were going through Suez.
Yes, as opposed to whether they're going through Suez.
Yes.
So that's already had an immediate impact on cost of shipping, and an increase in cost of shipping means an increase in cost of goods. So it's already having an impact.
So ile kuku yangu itaenda juu.
Itaenda juu.
Like a nonsense.
Boss man, that kuku already went up. It can't. How much more can it go up?
Utajua hujui.
Hata ile mkate yako na nyama katikati ile ya South Africa inaenda juu.
Boss man. Wewe mnakumbuka ile boflo?
So now
ile uwekwaga kadufu ndani. Mika, see me on the side.
So Washeke says Kenya has opened itself to do dirty work for the US. I strongly agree with what Washeke is saying.
Yeah, but also we have to think about it this way. We're in a position where if these guys are willing to pay us and somebody is saying, well, you know what, let them pay us in dollars and we don't have to use our own money to pay back these debts and me sitaki deni.
But now you see another thing that
but then those dirty jobs, how
Mika,
are they putting us in the eyes of other people? No, emotionally you have to consider things like
correct. Yeah, Mika, you're very right.
If let's say we say okay, America can launch a base in Kenya and they can attack the Houthi rebels from Kenya. How does it expose us to attacks from the Houthis or whoever supports the Houthis?
Man, we exposed every which way. We become exposed every which way if we're accommodating from that perspective to allow them to launch from, or if we ourselves take it on and under the guise of a so-called peacekeeping force,
think about
we go in.
Right now, most countries that the US has requested to partner with them in patrolling the Red Sea, most of those countries have said no. Most of those countries have refused. I don't know whether there's one that may have agreed, but at this point, most of them have refused because US likes going with that idea that we are going as a coalition.
Correct.
So that they don't have, these targets.
It doesn't look like, yes, it's them who are doing the attack, right?
Yeah. So now, and of course, they cannot, go through Congress to get their Navy to go declare war at the Red Sea because that's not even going to pass through Congress at the moment. No one has an appetite for that. So this is just a theory that I have in my mind.
With Afghanistan and all these other places.
It's just a theory that I have in my mind because now the new thing that's happening within the Pentagon is they're kind of looking for different partners in different parts of the world who can fight on their behalf with promises of goodies on the other side.
Yes.
So I think
it makes sense. I mean,
I think that's a deal.
It's outsourced.
So it makes sense. It depends. Now, when you see what's happening in Sudan right now, because that's another conflict that has not been talked about for a very long time.
Yeah.
Sudan, what's happening, there's a proxy war that's happening in Sudan right now. There's one side that's on the American side, and there's another side that's that's on the Russian side. So there's an American-Russia proxy war happening in Sudan. Because remember, these guys are being supplied by weapons. Despite the fact that there's nothing going on, these weapons are still firing. They're still firing, so they're coming from somewhere. There's still a supply of weapons. So sometimes when you think strategically, yes, you'll get the money, but you're exposing yourselves. Like in case US ends up on the losing side, you're now exposing yourself in a way that we've never been
Other than
exposed
losing,
before.
I mean, you would potentially get attacked internally.
Exactly.
And once those things, they never stop. I mean, look at what happened to us with Somalia.
Exactly.
I mean, and it's, to this day,
Yeah.
we still have issues.
We still have issues. Still
Wasn't
today.
it just here in December when these Jamas were trying to quell things in Northeastern?
Yeah. We
And
still have issues
and
today.
those have rolled over, trickled down from us occupying or going into Somalia in 2011.
Yeah.
It was in 2011.
Yeah. So Afro-Jamaican is asking World War. What World War? You mean the 2 European tribal wars of the 19th century? Okay, call them European tribal wars, but guess what, Afro-Jamaican? There were Kenyans on the front line. There were, I strongly believe,
Yeah,
Jamaica
King's
was
African
a British
Rifles.
colony. I believe some of your grandparents or your great-grandparents,
they were out there fighting.
they were out there. So whether we want to call it a tribal war, like we remember the time,
That war, that
like
war was a tribal war, but then we had an atomic bomb dropped in Japan.
exactly, and we had people in the front lines. We had people from they recruited or maybe they forced
There
people
was a
from
war that
other
was
tribes.
fought in North Africa because of that war.
Yes. So again, like we can look at it the way we want, but like our great grandparents were in the front lines.
They went to Burma to fight.
In this war, like Afro-Jamaican, I suggest you look at the translation of a song by Malian artist Salif Keita. It's called Nupa Bouger. Just go read the translation of that song, and maybe you'll understand why there's these wars, despite them being tribal issues within Europe, they involve the whole world. And then Washeke says that's how we became targets for Al-Shabaab. But now, outside, let's even leave, the peace and security part. The other interesting part of this, it's a very short paragraph, like by the White House. And this is how they operate. Economic ties. So they mentioned they want to expand economic ties. So expansion of economic ties. What exactly does that mean? Remember,
Sounds like the trade
there's
agreement.
a trade deal called AGOA that's expiring. It has a sunset clause. I believe it's expiring in 2025.
Yeah,
and
2025, yeah.
and there's been no indication that it's being renewed. Maybe it might be renewed.
But you also have to
don't know.
qualify. Remember, Kenya, based upon what the qualification criteria is to go into AGOA, Kenya does not.
No, Kenya is in AGOA, Mosh.
Yeah, no, okay, but wasn't it based upon the country being there are certain things that you had to hit certain economic
So
thing is-
Kenya, the export processing zone, like the export processing zone is still exporting stuff to America based on AGOA. I think the problem that Kenya started experiencing is that the sourcing of the material of the items being made was supposed to be sourced locally. But at some point for those clothes, Kenya started sourcing the material in China. So that became a problem. But I think there's still, even when you go to a lot of stores here, you'll still see a
yeah.
lot of clothes that are made in Kenya.
Yeah, the made in Kenya are
Yeah.
many.
Yeah, so AGOA is expiring, and now there's some jitteriness because this is going to have a very big impact to a lot of African countries that were under that AGOA agreement and that were exporting products to the US under AGOA. And then also remember, there's this trade deal that we were just talking about. Between Kenya and the US.
The permanent
so,
joint.
so I think, like the Biden administration is seeing such a gap. It's seeing such a big gap where they can lure, like President Ruto in some sort of virtual trap. I mean, of course, President Ruto likely and his people know what's going on, but I think in their minds, their highest priority at the moment is getting reelected in 2027. That's the highest priority for President Ruto at the moment. And remember, President Biden, if he wins the election this year, is going to be in power until 2028.
Yes.
Yeah, he's going to be in power until 2028. So this works very well in that they can milk this. I don't think they have any intention of signing it anytime soon because there are so many things they want to achieve from Kenya before they put a signature. So they'll tell them, do this and do this and do this before we sign this. Do this and do this and do this before we sign this. So in all honesty, I don't think this trade deal is going to be signed until maybe close to that. They will try to close in until, because remember in 2027, Biden will still be in power. And now he'll have a serious carrot. You know, like you have an election coming, you know.
Unatakaje, boss?
And this is something that we can use to influence, because America, you know, in as much as they talk about, you know, democracy and everything, they do a lot of things on the side to influence elections in other places. And this is something that they know President Ruto can potentially use in his favor, you know, because it's a permanent trade deal. A permanent trade deal is a big deal. It's not, you know, like one of these quick trade agreements we have that we're going to be exporting this or importing this. It's much bigger than AGOA. So that's right there. This is the other thing that I think the Biden administration is going to use and going to milk it until Kenya does everything they want. Remember, in this trade deal, and that's why I encourage people to go read it, one of the clauses says that we must support Israel. And remember, this trade deal came before Gaza.
Yes.
You know, like on
Correct,
any
yes.
issues that come up for vote in the UN, we must support Israel.
And by the way, remember, prior to this trade deal, Kenya was given nomination into the Security Council.
Yes, Kenya was nominated in the Security
Was it
Council as a temporary member.
A 3-year or a 4-year or something.
Yeah,
like
and
that.
I don't know whether we are still there, whether our
I
term
think-
expired.
I think they've renewed it Kiplani.
Okay. I don't know, because that's temporary. You hold it for a certain
yes,
period.
but I think they've renewed it Kiplani because it works for them.
I don't know. You know, like, I don't think Kenya is still on that, but someone can check.
On the UN
On the Security
I
Council.
think they're still there.
No, I don't think they're still.
I think they're still there. I'll check.
Are you sure, or ni guesswork?
I'm
Okay.
not sure.
Yeah, so someone please check to confirm. I don't think Kenya is still on the Security Council. I think our term might have expired, but someone please confirm. So these are some of the things that I'm concerned about, you know, like, and one of the reasons why we're having this very big lavish state dinner, because America also knows this is something that politicians like using back in their countries. You know, it's a big event. You're gonna
it is huge.
You're gonna be on all American media,
Bro.
You're gonna be on all American media. You're gonna be, you know, like, people in Congress will be talking about you. You know, like, the talk shows are gonna be about you. So yeah. So this is quite a big deal. And then the other big thing is that we have serious debt.
Hey,
Many.
we're at 11 trillion now.
It's a lot. It's just a big
as
debt.
it's claiming. No, it is. It's
Yeah.
about 11 point something trillion.
You're
it's
talking
heading to
about the
12.
Kenyan debt.
Yes.
Yeah, because also US is in debt, but the difference with US debt is that it's denominated in their own currency, and
So
they,
them, yeah,
and they
whatever.
never have to pay it.
They don't care.
Yeah. So we're in serious debt. That's another place where, you know, because US has influence on IMF. That's another area where I think will possibly get squeezed. So this is, I mean, I see problems over problems over problems. And then there's a part where they're talking about, in that same paragraph, defending democratic values. I think that, in quotes, means supporting Ukraine.
Yes.
Yes, it means supporting Ukraine.
Yes.
And I mean, I'm not here to say Ukraine or Russia is on the right side, but this is a war. If we entangle ourselves in it, we're going to be asking for problems. You know, Russia is a country that has the capacity to assassinate its own citizens abroad. Just sit and think about that. They have the capacity to assassinate their own citizens abroad.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know that this is something we want to get involved in. Now,
Update, Ali.
yes, what's the
Security
update?
Council. So Kenya had it. It's a rotational thing. So they actually had it. I think it's really for 2 years, but they say it's 1 year. So it's like it was 2021, 2022,
Yeah.
and then Mozambique replaced
Yeah.
Kenya
Mm-hmm. So
in
Kenya
the
is
Security
out.
Council
Yeah.
in January of 2023.
Yeah. So Kenya is out. There's no, it's temporary.
However, Kenya has served 1, 2, 3, about, they've done like 3 rotations.
Yeah.
73, 74, 97, 98, 2021, 2022.
Yeah. So yeah. So that's where we were. I was saying defending democratic values, like we, I mean, this is just me speculating, like if this Ukraine-Russia war continues, like maybe some KDF could loosely be sent
Because remember,
to the front line.
like you just mentioned, remember, there's a proxy war going in
Sudan.
And who are the proxies?
The 2 proxies are the US and Russia.
Yeah.
It's the US and Russia because the US, like they coaxed Sudan into, because Sudan was also in that normalization game. That word normalization is very sacrilegious. Na sisi, watu wa Palestine. With that word has become so dirty, like even in the Arab world, that now the countries
it is haram.
The words the countries that were actually proceeding with that normalization.
Hey, don't say the word.
That word. They're now hesitating. They're thinking twice about it because with whatever is happening in Gaza, it has become very problematic. Remember, Sudan was coaxed into what was called the Abraham Accords during President Trump's presidency, which was being brokered by Jared Kushner. The Abraham Accords, that's what birthed this normalization. And some countries, of course, Saudi Arabia was on top of the pyramid. I think Sudan was there. And they did agree to some certain normalization. And in exchange, they were getting diplomatic ties with the US. Because remember, the US cut diplomatic ties with Sudan because of harboring of Osama bin Laden and all that stuff, and Al Qaeda and all that stuff. But now they were in exchange they were getting back diplomatic ties, and there was some money, there was some Sudanese money that was being held that was gonna be released back to them.
Now, before you proceed, you go too far. You said Abraham Accords. For those who may not know, what are Abraham Accords?
So the Abraham Accords, is this deals that the Trump administration signed up at the same time when they were taking the U.S. embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. Which has some symbolic.
That's another story.
Yeah,
so you should watch those documentaries.
Yeah,
Nakba.
So remember, there was a time one of the I don't know that it was the first trip that Trump made abroad was to Saudi Arabia. The trip where he was doing the sword dance. Like where he was fitted to a very lavish ceremony. So that's where these deals were being crafted, and the idea was to completely kill the Palestine cause from the people's conscience, because the Arab world, they always had that policy that we cannot relate to Israel. In fact, most of them do not have diplomatic relations with Israel because of Palestine. They cut diplomatic relations from back when those wars started, or they never, let's say they never opened up diplomatic relations with Israel. Yeah. An exception is Egypt. And guess what happened in Egypt? Because Egypt, opened up diplomatic relations with Israel in the 70s, back in the 70s.
Anwar
Sadat, he got assassinated. Anwar Sadat was the Egyptian president.
Yes.
So this thing is very serious.
You even remember?
It's no joke.
The guy of the career, the Nobel Peace Prize winning former premier, Yitzhak Rabin.
Yeah.
There were
assassination.
Because there was an attempt to try, whatever
I think
it was.
At the time it was the Oslo Accords.
Yes, the Oslo Accords. They were trying to carry out.
They were trying to. It was the closest they came to a two-state solution.
Yes,
but
Jama was by a Zionist. Buddha boss.
Yeah, he was taken out.
Tigawana.
Yeah.
Yes.
So this thing, I think it's important because I think geopolitics has become a not very important topic, especially like in Kenyan education curriculums and even in Kenyan homes. These are things that people don't talk about, but they have a direct impact.
Yes,
with what's happening.
It affects them
country.
Directly.
Yeah,
kabisa.
Yeah. So we're talking about the Abraham Accords.
Yes.
So Sudan was part of that deal, and what happened when Sudan at some point refused to do the bidding for the, I don't know exactly what happened, but the American ambassador in Sudan left. So right now, so I don't know what that has done to the newly reinstated diplomatic ties between Sudan and the U.S. because the American ambassador, left Sudan and came back, and there's basically no American embassy in the Sudan anymore. So we have to be very careful. I know Kenya has been very peaceful, and people always keep saying this thing, oh, this can never happen to us, this can never happen to us. We've seen things happening to countries where we never thought something would happen to them. So we must be very careful.
Because the only reason this can happen is because of the leaders we have elected who decide to go and do madhokodhanio. That's why we always say elections have consequences.
Yeah. Okay. And then Pablo is saying Kenya has also reached out to the US for support after Kenya was grey listed in quotes. Maybe Pablo, tell us more about that being grey listed. Hopefully after that dinner, Kenya will be wash free. So
I think that is pertaining to corruption, if I'm not wrong.
Okay.
I'd seen something like that in Peter Kwatika, but I think it has something to do with corruption. Na tumeingishwa sasa hiyo box ya see.
Yeah. So Patrick is saying they better do dirty work with US rather than with China or Russia. I don't know. Like if this was Ali, like 5-10 years ago, like I would have agreed with Patrick. But when you look at, like places, since the US went unipolar after the Soviets fell in 1991.
Wherever US has gone, there has been problem.
It has turned to dust.
It's madhokodhanio.
Wherever US, we love the US, we live here, and unfortunately, we funded money that has gone to kill people in other countries.
Yes.
This is something that we have to live with, and that's why
you don't even have to go far, bro.
You have
when
to
you
be
look
conscious.
when you look at what's going on in Gaza,
it's American
it's
weapons.
American weapons.
It's American weapons. It's American companies that are making those weapons.
Yes.
Like America has the ability to shut it off.
Yes.
But they have not done that. So since that time, like we count all the countries that America has gone to. We're talking about Iraq. We're talking about Afghanistan,
Vietnam.
There was Syria to a certain extent. Syria, there was officially no boots on the ground, but there were some boots here and there.
Libya.
Yeah, look at Libya. And that was Obama's biggest blunder.
Yes,
I personally can never forgive Obama for that.
Yoni watalu yake.
Yeah, I can never forgive Obama for that, and he acknowledges it in his own book.
Yes,
that's one thing. Yes, Obama, we are comrades, we are Kenyans, but that we shall never forgive you.
Apple livable.
Yes.
But was Apple livable.
We shall never, a country that was perfectly functioning, like that even people were going in from other countries to find jobs there. Now it has fallen apart.
It's madhokodhanio.
Yeah. So all these places, that the US has gone, they've all turned to dust. In this whole period, because remember this unipolar period lasted.
Does Somalia count?
US, okay, well, I would say US was in Somalia.
Black Hawk Down.
But I don't know whether I would say.
I don't think they were like deep in it.
But
they,
you see, US,
they were deep. They
were there. Yeah, they fungared Virago.
They fungared Virago and exited stage left.
But I think Somalia had already fell before the US came. Because they did not have an operational government at the time. They were already, like warlords. Kina Mohammed Farah did. They were already in operation at the time. So I think America was trying to come to secure, and America has also previously used Ethiopian forces to try to go to Somalia. And Somalis and Ethiopians, they, ni pamba na moto. Like they don't get along at all. And even, like when you look at the rise of Al-Shabaab, it was back in 2006 when Ethiopian troops were sent to Somalia. That's when they became radicalized, because I think at the point they were taking over city to city. They were trying to see if they could like just take over different cities and have like a government based on Islamic Sharia. And America ikasikia Islamic Sharia, ikajua hapa ni kubaya, and that's why they sent like Ethiopian troops. And that's the point when now Al-Shabaab became, the militant wing, because the organization itself had a structure, and this is history here. This is not Ali talking. You can always go back to Google and figure out. It had a structure. It had some elders. It had a fighting unit. But the problem after the Ethiopians came, and the fighting started, and then they left. Now the fighting unit is the one that now took over. Ikasema hawa wazee weko too slow.
Wakwende.
Yeah. So that's when, things now started, going haywire. But that was back then. So a lot of geopolitics that I think, and I think this is the most geopolitics we've spoken on the One Mic show. But
and there's also concern because, we really don't really discuss what goes on around even with our neighbors.
No.
In Kenya.
No.
What I'm talking about, like Tanzania, Ethiopia, Sudan.
No, we don't.
And because, there are many people right now, even over here listening, Akina, Patrick's, probably Pablo Kwanza, we're not aware that there's a situation that is going on in Sudan. They were not aware.
Maybe they know, but it's not
or,
loud in the news.
Or let's just put it. It's not loud in the news.
No, it's not loud in the news.
It's not loud.
Very,
it's not even in the news.
It's not even on the timeline.
Initially, when it first started happening again, it came out and then it just it
and then it
fizzled.
disappeared.
The only time
it
it
just
really
went undercover.
The only time it really was Korea was when Bashir was overthrown.
When El Bashir was being overthrown.
When he was overthrown. And then
so that was all over the news.
Yeah, of course.
Because the West was happy that El Bashir has been overthrown.
Yes, he has been overthrown. And then they became, it's like the Janjaweed, the guy comes up, is propped up.
Janjaweed was integrated
into the military.
Into the military.
Yes. Right? So now you hear those stories and then all of a sudden, it's like for some reason, it's like it just quieted down. Because it's going on, but it's not being televised. You don't hear about it.
No, it's not being televised.
Yes.
And we have to figure out ways of gathering this information. We should not wait for our timelines to tell us what to read. We should just randomly go find out. Africa has 54 countries. We should just randomly find ways of getting alerts of what's happening in other regions of Africa.
I'll give you an example. Here's the problem. Like in Kenya. Ingia Spice, Ingia Citizen, Ingia whatever. You rarely hear a mention of what's going on in Sudan.
No.
Whatever dominates, what's dominating is ideally Ruto's government, corruption, control of government, control of budget, saying there's a lot of money being carried.
Yeah.
Ruto really trying to pretty much a strong arm parliament to pass the building levy fund, whatever.
Yeah.
Like that is what is dominating.
That's what's dominating.
That's
what's gonna trend.
Right?
And in this new age, I think because in the old age, illiterate people is people who could not read or write.
Mm-hmm.
But in this new age, we're gonna have a lot of literate people.
Or
rather people who can read and write, but people who are illiterate.
Yes.
In the sense that there's something very major, that's happening, and you're totally unaware. You're totally caught unawares. Remember when this Gaza thing was starting? That's when, for me, I was shocked to personally find out that most people did not know that Israel did not exist before 1948.
I'll be one of them. I will be glad because of what we have been taught.
Mm-hmm.
From what we have seen, even back in the day, and this KBC, whatever, the narrative was, Palestinians are hostile, Israelis are peaceful. Israelis, ask any guy, most guys who are who are either saved, sanctified, your church, whatever. The doctrine that is taught, or that we know, is that Palestinians are the bad guys,
aggressors.
They're the aggressors. The Israelis are the chosen people.
The good ones.
They are the chosen people, and and the Palestinians will never ever survive. They'll never succeed in overthrowing God or whatever. Even the creation of the state. Yes, you know that the state was created in 1948. That's when these guys became whoever they become. But there was never any history. Never until when this happened. Now you start, like now when you started sharing like the Nakba, you're like, Then you start going and talk, and when you start listening to podcasts about historians, even Israeli historians, like the guy was talking about how
Ilan Pape.
Ilan Pape.
Yeah.
Then the guy who was saying that Israel will never the information that is supposed to be declassified after a time. They said they'll never declassify.
They'll never declassify it.
You can I never knew until now. You can never take a DNA in Israel because a DNA test, it's out there. You can't take. Umesikia hiyo story?
Yo pia mimi nasikia sasa.
Yeah. I was listening to even some clerics. There's a lot of information in Ilhan. They say you cannot take a DNA. It's banned actually.
Wow, that's interesting.
So this is information, and it comes out that it's actually 2 countries or 3 that, when a resolution is passed, when they say the world is in favor of Israel being favor. No, it's not. The whole world votes. They want a resolution, 2-state solution, convoy and everything. The people who vote against it, or like now the right of return, stuff like that, that is voted for. Mm-hmm. And these are UN resolutions that have been passed.
Yes, and in fact, even the parts that Israel, of course, that whole land was Palestine, but even the parts that the UN recognizes as Palestine, Israelis are still occupying.
Yes.
Those parts. Even the parts that UN has said this is where the borders are.
Yes. Yeah, the demarcation.
The 1967 borders, where the ones that the US officially recognizes. They've been progressively, killing people, evicting people. And this right here, this opportunity is where they wanted to wipe out Gaza, have people flee to Egypt, have other people flee to Jordan, and they can take
and that's exactly what they're doing.
That's what they want. But now what they've not been able to do is they've not been able to push, because they're asking, because Egypt on this side wamefunga border deliberately, and Jordan pia on this side wamefunga border, and because the moment these people go out,
it's a wrap.
They will never be allowed back.
Yes.
Yeah. So those are some of the things that I think even as Kenyans we need to think about. The repercussions that we are gonna have by taking this side. I mean, of course, our president, very lazily took a side on Twitter. When this thing was fresh, he has not even consulted, his intelligence and foreign policy experts, and he was already there. Israel. And these things put us in a vulnerable position. But you
should hear some of in some of the groups that some people vehemently support, and I'm like, you're talking about October 7th. Mm-hmm. Have you looked at the last 75 years?
But now, and this is where I think there has to be a whole new paradigm, because I think we have a whole generation that's been affected other things, because I can see a couple of things that are on my timeline. I think that's enough. And I think that's a problem. And that's the reason why it's become so easy to deceive people.
Yes.
When the information is out there, hidden in plain sight. But I think we're going to talk about this another day. In fact, we're going to get, I don't know exactly what week it's going to be. We're going to get someone who's going to give us the history of how Israel, the Jewish state, was going to be in Kenya. He's going to give us the history of that and the background. And why that whatever is happening in Gaza right now could have been happening to you, in as much as you're thinking that that's far away.
Uganda.
Yes.
Yes, you're right. Yeah.
It was called the Uganda plan.
Yes.
But that portion that was chosen, it was
Rift Valley.
It was
present
one of those,
day Kenya.
It's present day Kenya. It was one of those parts that was controversially, it was supposed
annexed,
to be part of Uganda.
Yeah,
but it's in present day Kenya. That's a part that was supposed to be. That's a part that was supposed to be the Israeli state.
And for some, like Slay Washeke, it's not Migingo Island. It's not Migingo.
Now, Pablo here is telling us grey listing is in line with Kenya being listed by the Financial Task Force with regard to money laundering, terrorism financing. It means that there is enhanced monitoring to ensure compliance, probably indicating there has been a lot of laxity by Kenya in some of those areas. Kenya is seeking the likes of the UK and US to help it get out of that list. CS Njuguna issued a statement to this effect, Jana. Okay, all right. So that's also interesting. So Kenya is also trying to get something out of this.
Wash.
It's good to see they're trying to get something out of it. I mean, I don't know whether this is going to help with the dollar exchange rate, or I don't know what it's going to do.
I was going to ask about that, but I think Washeke also mentioned here the Congo, because you never hear about the war in Congo.
Yes, that's another war that
That's
you never
another
hear
This
much
one,
about.
this one is crazy.
You can't.
But you know the interesting thing, there's a lot of independent, like journalists who report on these things. There's a very interesting YouTube page I watch called the Geopolitical Report. Is it the Geopolitical Report of this young journalist? He just does, is it the Geopolitical Economy or the Geopolitical Report? It has some red colors on it. You know, I'm going to share that page. He has some very, very interesting stuff. He's just a journalist who was disgruntled by how media houses were working. And now he goes and looks under the hood. Because, you know, most of the time, this information is available nowadays. It's not even hidden. So he presents that information that's hidden. And one thing that you'll notice, a lot of this news is suppressed by the algorithms. So you actually have to go out and seek it. You have to go out and seek it and look at it.
Not the Geopolitical Economy Report, no?
Is it it might be the geopolitical. If it has, you know, like some red logos or a red theme, it's the one. It could be the Geopolitical Economy Report, or it could be the Geopolitical Report.
Will you, because I'm not liking this one. Putin debunks Tucker Carlson's warmongering anti-China propaganda. CIA ties.
The geopolitical.
Why does
I
the
think-
USA support Israel? A geopolitical analysis.
Yes,
with
so it is
economical Hudson.
it's Geopolitical Economy Report.
Okay, so
It's called Geopolitical Economy Report.
Okay.
You know, like if you listen to the guy, he gives evidence of everything that he's talking about. If it's a document that he's referring to, if it's he just doesn't
Thank
talk.
you for putting me on this.
Yes, so you have
Kondani kama SIM card.
so you kind of have to seek these spaces, these hidden spaces, where this information is being, you know, like laid out, because they're not gonna pop up on your timeline.
No, they won't.
Yeah.
Especially like if you're being shadow banned.
No.
Where just no.
Yeah.
Especially on matters pertaining Israel, Gaza.
Yes.
Shadow banning. If you're not in support, where we're
Yes. Yeah, we're injured.
Yeah.
You know, like, and it's very obvious. But anyway, you know, so much for the geopolitics. These trips, as we conclude on Imamboya White House, these trips of state dinners, you know, like of Kenyan presidents coming to the US, or now Ruto coming, does this have any benefit to us? Or is there a way in which, as diaspora, we can position ourselves to get some benefit out of this? Ndunge was earlier asking if she can get a dinner invite to the White House.
To be quite honest, when you're in that position of, for lack of a better word, begging, you know, like now how Pablo is listing, you know, when you're gray listed, right? When you don't have that power or that presence, you're actually at the mercy of, because, you know, you're looking at a higher power
Yeah.
who is coming and he's really going to dangle
Yeah.
some serious carrots.
It's like telling a class monitor to remove your name from the noisemakers list.
And especially this class.
You mean
this
you're not
class
supposed to
prefect,
tell them?
Eh?
and this class prefect ni mtu amejulikana, is either ako haya na anajua na
Yeah.
na
So either you have
So
to bribe him, or you have
and
to
even
buy him
bribe,
loaf. Yeah.
what exactly are you willing to part with
Yes.
for your name not to appear there?
Your name not to appear.
And by the way, when you talk about this class prefect, this is a guy who, if your name is submitted, you're looking at, you're going to be playing golf
Yep.
with a slasher.
Or I was about to say,
Your golf.
advise people what golf is, but
You're slashing.
Unafia kama nyasi.
Unafia kama nyasi.
how many holes?
Yeah.
A whole day. A whole day. So it takes a lot. Vis-a-vis, let's say somebody who, you know, at that level of maybe like you're a brainiac, they'll be like, "Ay, apana, this guy, apana." You can argue your case. Let's say, for example, if you have goodies to offer, for example, like the Netherlands. Let's look at those European countries. If those guys come over here for a state dinner, na ni official, si ati mambo mengi, and it's not that you're like, uwezi kanitisha. You know, but if you're, let's say, you know, if you're, let's say you're Chelsea and then you're playing a division not even championship or League 1, League 2. Zile leagues ziko huko chini.
Yeah.
You are really probably you're like, these guys will
you're not in
overwhelm
a
and
good
whatever.
position.
No, you're not.
You're not in a good
You're
position.
not.
Yeah.
You're not in a good position. And
I
of
don't
course,
know why Chelsea was using that.
oh, okay, fine. Toilet ham. So I just mean toilet ham.
Okay.
You
Toilet
know,
time.
yeah.
Wow.
Chances are, but especially with toilet ham, you can lose those teams. But you're not in a position. You're not in a position to really negotiate. Like, ukisimamishwa na Karao Kenya, the only way you can negotiate is kufanya nini?
Ni toa kitu
Envelope,
kidogo.
brown envelope.
There we
Brown
go.
envelope. Yeah, toa kitu kidogo.
Unless you can make that call quickly and that guy
Exactly.
yeah.
But I think what Africans need to learn is one African country that has put itself in a very good negotiating position, even with the world powers, is South Africa. South Africa, you cannot bully them. You cannot bully them. South Africa, I think on the geopolitics part, they have understood and they have got it, because the original thinking was, oh, let me pick a side. But South Africa was like, no, you can't tell us, like what side to pick or what side not to pick. And I think now they're in a position where even if the US wants something, they have to go talk to them, wakinyenyekea, because it's kind of like, okay, if you come with arrogance, we're not going to do, like what you want. We're going to proceed with X, Y, and Z. Yeah, and it may hurt a few trade deals here and there, but
they
I
don't
think
care.
geopolitically in the long run, and that's why they have the guts to defy, the US and go to the International Court of Justice.
Yes.
And defend Palestine.
And file a case.
And file a case.
And win.
Against Israel.
And win.
The preliminary ruling.
The
It's not
preliminary
been ruled
ruling,
yet.
well, ideally,
Yeah, they got a few things, yeah.
At
Yeah.
least,
So it's
even just that.
It's gonna take a while. It's gonna take a while, but yeah.
Yeah. Sean King was banned for life by Meta.
I did not even
I did not know that.
Yeah, no wonder I've not seen him in a long time.
Allah?
Yeah.
Washaka, please do tell.
Yeah.
Do share.
Yeah, so I think, like, this is where we have to be careful. You may be in a box without knowing. Wajua zamani, when someone did not know how to read, they knew that I don't know how to read. And I need to get someone to read for me, or I need to go somewhere where I'll get this information. But the worst thing about today is that there are people who are in that bubble, and they totally don't know that they're inside a bubble. They think because, I go through my timeline, I get notifications. Those notifications are algorithms. You have to go seek, and I always tell people, try to go to the original source. If there's a document, or like unaona kama hii White House, there's a lot of media reporting on it. You can go to see originally what White House has said, and I'm sure also State House has a statement that they issued on this, and they have their own goals. Then once you're armed with that, then you can go and navigate the different sources, because they sometimes do analysis. There's still a lot of value. I know people say dismiss mainstream media. I honestly think there's still a lot of value in mainstream media, especially in the spaces where you cannot go, because there's this thing that people like saying, I researched for myself. There's certain research that you cannot do for yourself.
My
There's
friend,
certain things that you cannot do for
those
yourself.
there are some of those people who research that, who end up finding that JFK is still alive. Na wanaenda Texas kumsalimia.
They did their own research.
Walifanya hiyo research. Ama the guy who was the guy who drove from wherever he was, because there was this story of akina Hillary Clinton and doing what? Pedophiles and drinking blood of watois. Wanakutana hapi at a pizza place in DC.
Oh yeah, those.
Unakumbuka huyo?
Yeah, I remember those guys.
How? And there's no you can convince them at all.
But now, back to the diaspora.
Yes.
How do we get, how first of all do we get Ndunge to get to the dinner? In the way she wants to go to the dinner. How do we get her to go there? But generally speaking,
Ato brown envelope.
how do we benefit?
As,
How can we,
as diasporans or as Kenyans?
as diasporans, as Kenyans, because we sometimes don't realize, but we occupy a very special place, within the Kenyan context. Like all these leaders who are going to be coming from Kenya, we will get access to them. Someone in Kenya does not have access to those leaders.
Yeah.
We could probably, if we pull some strings And and people don't. We could probably get President Ruto in this studio. We would like to have him in this studio.
One of the ways, to be able to really have that voice, the first and the most initial and crucial step happened when we were granted the right to vote. Is that simple? We had been talking about, we want to vote. We were granted. DC, how many people voted? 313.
Oof.
New York.
Let's not even go there.
Okay. We started complaining. We were granted. Why can't they travel? How about you first register, come out, right? Even if they gave us 2 weeks, fine. Now, but you have been given the chance.
Yeah.
You have been given the opportunity. Because in 2027, we will vote. How many people are going to, because you can follow. Because the more people that are registered to vote, the more that people vote, the more you have a voice. Is that simple? Even here, and Akina Roland Martin, they're always telling people, because like now some of these cases that are, especially local elections, like like the one in Texas about the career, the Crown Act, where the Kijana was told about dreads.
Yeah, the dreadlocks were too long.
Yes, they're too long.
Yeah.
Local. If even that judge that passed that, anyone or even the city council, all those people, your local elections matter. That is where laws are passed. So is it Alabama or Louisiana?
Yeah.
Frozen embryos, eggs. What have they been declared?
Wow, like this, I don't even know, what's happening.
So the only way, I think, the first and most crucial way, we can even send 3 trillion. Chances are even Diaspora can decide, we're going to raise enough funds to wipe out the debt. Maybe 2 trillion, 3 trillion or whatever. Maybe. But what was missing was the ability to vote. Now we can vote as Diaspora. In the US, you can vote.
So we can
let us
vote.
start there.
Yeah, so we can. So that's a good starting point.
Yes,
but
it is.
Now with this trip, for example, I can see, for example,
Alabama. Okay, thank you, Sheka.
Yeah, so I can see. Let me see. A lot of comments were coming in here. Sheka is asking, what does this trip do to our economy and ability to earn foreign exchange? Kenya doing well translates to us diasporans needing to feed less mouths in Kenya. Now, I think Kenya, we have like systems broken at so many levels, because, and not to put it in a bad way, I don't think most people have enough, information to know how we can benefit from this. The politicians know what they want to benefit. They know exactly what they want to benefit.
Let me tell you.
Yeah.
Those guys,
they're very specific.
They know.
And they're very strategic on what they're looking for.
Yes.
But now, when, because people are tired of these announcements, that keep coming, that we're going to do this and on the ground, people are not feeling it. There has to be a translation of how this relationship, benefits us. Even if it's indirectly, there has to be a translation of it, which there seems to be none. People don't understand.
Are you going to expect from the current administration
and
anything more?
And people in the diaspora, unfortunately, people get caught up in the glitz, glamour, and selfies. Oh, I'm in the White House. I took a picture with I don't know who in the White House. So the problem of that, and then when you try to bring in issues like I did when Uhuru was here in the first term, and then people were asking me why you're being negative. That was at the Marriott Hotel. When I stood up to ask some question. Virginia, yeah.
No, wait.
No, it was in Virginia. No, I think it was in DC.
Yeah, DC.
It was Wadman Park in DC.
The one we were fed.
Yes, it was Wadman Park. I don't know whether I can't even remember whether we were fed.
There's one we were fed when he came with business leaders from Kenya and all that.
That was during the first time.
Chris Kirubi.
That was during the first time.
Yes.
He came multiple times.
And that was just before the Obama's Nini.
No. Before Obama's inauguration, Kibaki was still president.
It was before Obama's Africa Summit.
It was probably before
It was
Obama's,
just
yes.
before the Africa
It was
Summit.
before the Africa Summit, so
Yes.
probably it's that one, yeah. So when you stand up to ask questions, the people who came and went and got matching outfits to come to see the president,
You
they're,
mean
they're,
you
they're
didn't-
caught up. They're caught up in seeing those pictures. Then we lose the plot.
Unafaa kushona
100.
nini?
Yeah, we totally lose the plot.
Unafaa kushona vitu.
I was listening to. No, you don't even have to go far. I was listening to the former governor of I think it was Nyandarua. He was on News Gang with Akina Linus, and he was saying something that was very interesting. Governors, mumepewa jukumu, your responsibility. You're the prefect. You have the sole mandate to run your county. Constitutionally, you are the national government is obligated to fund. So for every shilling that is collected, 15 cents is supposed to go to the counties. That's per the law, constitution, definition. That's what he was saying.
Yeah.
But even if it is mandatory, he doesn't see, and he's always questioning why the governors are being subservient, or wanaenda, they're going to bow down and acquiesce to the national government, aka to the executive, right? When in essence they are supposed to be getting, it's mandatory. It's not that it's due. It's like how we go to get our driving license, but no longer to get something that we should be getting,
that you're entitled to.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that is a mentality that needs to be broken.
And now the executive even starts telling you, if you guys behave well, we're gonna give you more.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
that's exactly what's happening, because now it's just the other day, Uyu Waikulu was saying that they're having a hard time. They're realizing that the executive at some point is handicapping the counties. However you want to look at it, they're handicapping because there are no monies that are coming down to the counties per what is defined in the constitution, what they're supposed to get. Kangata himself, he says that we're waiting for money. The guy Ruto has the audacity to say that first we have to pay for students to go to school, right? You have to pay school fees. But if these students are sick, how will they go to school?
Now, I know in Mombasa County, there's county employees, and I don't know that this is public knowledge. Unfortunately, it's going to become public now, who have gone for more than 3 months without getting paid.
Yes, I would not be surprised, yes.
And I'm sure this is a situation that might be replicated also in other
counties, yes, because they're waiting for that national cake to be cut, and they're being given at I think is it 80% of what they agreed or something like that.
So
or at least that's the offer on the ground, and they're being told no, just take this 80. It's better than nothing, and they're still holding fast and saying, "Z, you are supposed to give us." And it's what I don't understand is why this is a constant fight, because they had agreed. Everybody seemed to have been on the same path. The Council of Governors met with the executive, everything, or whoever the reps are of the national government, said, okay, fine, we'll give you A, B, C, D, F, G. But every other time, that thing is being cut. The first place they go to is the cut. Now, when you cut it, that means that the county governments can't do what they're supposed to do, like pay their employees and do certain other things, because there's only so much money or so many things that they have as source of income, because, no pun intended, we're not a manufacturing nation.
Yeah.
No, we're not.
Yeah, so
There's a lot. There's a lot.
At the end of the day, we have to figure ourselves out in diaspora. Let's stop getting excited when these politicians come here.
Oh, what? We can't run and tell Ali, let's go because Nani's coming?
No. Let's stop getting excited, because that's where we lose the plot, and that's where these people understand. These people are more interested in getting selfies or finding, because that's also people who
and
have
once you lose the
ambitions.
plot, and
people who have ambitions of being in government, that's where they're going to look for jobs. I'm like, you're living in America. Why are you looking for a job in, sometimes I wonder, you're living in America where there's all kinds of opportunities. Why is it that you're so pressed to have, a government job in Kenya that you're willing to go degrade yourself, and even like start.
Bro, we want.
It's
Let
my
me-
soft
you-
landing.
You're talking about county employees. Even contractors, guys who have got tenders, hawajalipwa. Let us start there.
Actually, that one of tenders, it's been a while, and
It's been those ones have been a
suspect
minute.
it's been since, because they've been reviewing since when UK was leaving. And
Over a year.
there was a whole backlog where it got to a point where they had said, okay, we're not paying these guys anymore. In fact, we're going to go start reviewing from the guys who were owed from a year back. We're reviewing everybody. Stop, hold our prices, we review, and then we pay. We review, then we pay. We review, then we pay. So I don't know how fast they're moving and what it is that they're doing to do that. But it's very frustrating. I think I remember there was a guy who had gone to one of these buildings. He kept going to the building to get paid, one of the government departments, and those guys kept taking him around in circles. He's stripped naked.
Yes.
Yeah. I
So,
remember
but
that,
yeah.
And so that's how bad it literally is.
Yeah, and then Patrick is saying, as per constitution, every county should have means of generating money, not to wait handouts from the national government. Now, Patrick's, I'm sorry to say this, but I think you're also a victim of some of these narratives that the government is peddling. Please show us what part of the constitution says that, because we are here. This is an open information era. Please show us. But I can tell you this: the constitution doesn't say this. The constitution actually guarantees counties to share from a pot of a minimum of 15%. And remember that 15% is a minimum of all the money that's collected by the national government. Because remember, not all counties have the same capacity of generating revenue.
Yes.
Like Nairobi doesn't have the same capacity as Garissa or as Marsabit. They're counties that have that have absolutely nothing. They don't have
100%. Yes.
They don't have parking spaces to collect money from. They have nowhere to start. So there's that minimum, and there's a special formula from what's called the Commission of Revenue Allocation, where this pot of money that's collected is distributed. So the government is not even meeting these minimums. And then they're using a loophole that talks about the most recently audited taxes, whereby they might use 15% of 2017, like when the government collected much less money, just because these other years have not been audited. So I think it's important to curb these narratives when they happen. So Patrick, what you're saying is not true, but if we are wrong, we will be pleased for you to show us what part of the constitution says that.
It is not a handout. It is
It's an entitlement.
It's an entitlement.
It's not a handout.
It is a charge.
Because remember, under the new constitution, certain functions that were being performed by the national government were moved to the county government.
Yes.
And the idea was the money should follow the function.
Yes.
Because those functions that were being performed by the national government,
Like health.
they required money.
Yes.
They required money. So
Yes.
now these functions are being performed by the county government, but the money is not following.
What the former governor was saying was what I think there needs to be a change in that, how the money is collected and allocated. Why not the money collected and stay, whatever is collected, stay with the county itself. And they were going about and he was making some very salient points, because it is bureaucracy, red tape or whatever, because ni kama nachukua pesa.
Yeah.
So alimia nachukua pesa. Alafu nakupatia pesa. Lakini alafu nakuomba ile pesa nimekupatia unipe, ndio. Na hii pesa nimeokota ni ya kufanya kazi tuseme.
Yeah.
Lakini nimeokota nikakupatia, alafu nasema kadha tafadhali. There's no difference than what the French were doing with the colonies.
Yeah.
Because they don't have any central banks. The central banks are where? In France.
Yeah, so, and Pablo is saying county governments in Kenya don't know how to exercise their powers under the constitution.
Because they're kissing up to the executive.
That's why
that's
governors
the problem.
still troop to State House.
It's
to
party
kiss the
politics.
ring.
That is why.
The County
it's the
Government
party
Allocation
politics killing
Act
them.
stipulates how county governments should receive allocations regardless of how much is collected as taxes. So I think, we haven't gotten to a point where we've been able to detach. And remember also, county governments, unlike in the US, where state governments have authority to collect taxes.
They do their own thing.
Like income taxes.
Yes.
They have authority to collect income taxes. County governments in Kenya don't have a right to collect income taxes. And even if they did, think about it, there's some states that have very little people who have formal incomes, like when it comes to distribution of people with formal incomes. So think about a state like Marsabit. How much are they going to collect, as compared to, like a county like Nairobi. So I think we also have, despite the fact that there are some governors who've shown an aptitude of corruption, but let's do this, give them the money, let them corrupt that money while they're with, but you can't say, because I think you might steal this money.
Because
so,
I think.
So I can't give you the money. So no, it doesn't work that way. But anyway, that's a story for another day. So we'll have to try to figure out how these trips are going to benefit us, because this thing of running to politicians and taking selfies with them, that doesn't help us.
Won't.
Like, we don't need those guys. Like, the good thing about Diaspora is that this is one of the few Kenyan constituencies, especially the diaspora in the US. I can't speak for any other diaspora. Diaspora in the US, this is one of the constituencies. You can't bribe people. How much are you gonna give us? Like, you can't come handing out $20. How much are you gonna give us?
I mean, what they'll probably do is take you to maybe SWA, and then they buy you Kenyan food.
So SWA, okay.
Even SWA is stretching it.
But even SWA, so I mean, everybody, and there's almost everyone can afford to go and buy their own food. In Kenya, when they bribe people, I was very shocked to find out that sometimes it's 50 bob. People are sacrificing a whole day. They're going to be lining up a whole day. They'll go to a rally so that at the end of the day, they can be given 50 bob.
Yes.
They're bus there. Yeah. And people are doing it,
Yes.
because of desperation.
Ali, your poverty, see your joke.
No, I know, it's not a joke.
Your poverty, see your joke.
It's not a joke.
Unajua hiyo so moja, watu wamekula kwa nyumba.
Yeah. Yeah. And then let me see. Washeke says it's because the governors are more interested in the next election. Campaigning never stops in Kenya. And then Pablo is asking, can we also at some other time discuss how the president makes declarations and leaves millions of shillings whenever he goes? Where does the money come from? Yet, on the other hand, his deputy keeps saying they found coffers empty.
But even this money that's supposedly declared, a lot of times it's never given. Like it never comes out.
Bro, don't even go there.
It's stated.
You're your church.
Those church even church. There are all sorts of different ones. There's some that are like roadside declaration. And then there are others where it's like, okay, Nani, I have come on behalf of Nani, and they said I'm gonna give you this, and then now, okay, that whatever it is that I'm gonna give you, huoni, especially watch funerals. If you see those things, like if it's somebody who was, I guess, connected to a prominent person or whatever the case is, and say there's a gava rep who comes, kuna kado uwaga na wachwa, iyo do kuiona uwaga ni issue.
So they are empty coffers, but they want to build what is that, the presidential, whatever it's called, 750 billions, what?
They wanted to renovate. Yeah, they wanted to renovate Gachagwa's residence,
but the coffers were empty.
Okay,
anyway,
but wait, why?
Anyway, let's get away from that. Omosh, let's go to like Avo's law in Virginia. I have a couple of Virginians here who are tuned in, and they want to know. For those who maybe don't remember, you'll remember there was a Kenyan who was smothered to death by police in Virginia, somewhere near Richmond, Virginia, and he was going through a mental health episode.
Crisis.
And we hosted hosted the brother soon after that happened, and of course the family won a civil suit against like those police departments, and there's actually a law that's right now in the works in the Virginia Assembly. So Mosh, please tell us a bit about this law before we get to the final topic of the day, which is going to be about MCSK and the wars Kenyan artists are experiencing. Omosh.
So the Kenyan, it was called AVO, IRVO, Avo Otieno. And Avo Otieno basically, unfortunately, like Ali said, was he had a mental crisis, and basically was initially, they claimed that he was taken to a mental facility, and then he acted out there. Then he got violent, and then he was arrested from at this mental facility and taken to, I think, a state, a county hospital.
Was it a hospital? Yeah.
I think it was a county hospital or something that he was taken to. Somewhere, and shortly after that, he passed away. And when I say he passed away, he was, like Ali said, he was
crushed to death.
murdered.
Yes, he had about 10 people on him.
It was quite a number of
It was about 10
murdered.
people. It was about 10 people on him, and I think 7 of them were cops or something, and 2 or 3 were mental health workers or something like that. I think that's the correct definition. So something that did come out in all of this was that between the time he got arrested / taken to the hospital and when he passed away, I think it was like a 2 or 3 day window. And in that time frame, when he was in the mental facility or had been taken to a mental place to be evaluated, he was calling out for his mother. Now, his mother kept going to this place and she was never allowed to see him. So what the Arvo's law is all about is that they basically came in and said, put some legislation together with the current sitting governor, Glenn, what's his name?
Glenn Youngkin.
Youngkin, sorry,
yeah.
I was saying Hawkins. Glenn Youngkin. And basically what it is that he said that he would support this law, or should I say pass the law once it comes across his desk. The thing about this particular law is that they are saying that whenever a loved one is getting it's experiencing a mental health crisis after receiving an emergency custody order, that they would allow families to be with their loved one. Meaning that in the case where, say in Avo's case, where he was around strangers, he couldn't see anybody who was familiar. He called out for his mother. His mom was not there. And we're talking about a 28-year-old. So it's not like he's a young guy, but at that point in time when you have that crisis, you need somebody to de-escalate the situation. And cops or people who are not your safe space could be triggers, So to avoid those sorts of triggers, then at least having a family member or a safe space, quote unquote, maybe it could be a mental health provider who you're used to seeing, when those sorts of things happen, then that could potentially de-escalate this person to the point where they're not violent, they're not being, unreasonable, because again, they are in crisis. It's a mental health issue. So basically, Avo's law is to allow for the family to get access to this particular person when they are in this mental health crisis. And it seems like basically without it being put into law, then whoever is in charge of the facility, the place, whether it's the law enforcement or the mental health providers, they can refuse. But once the law is there, they say that as long as this person is family, you can't refuse.
Yeah.
You have to allow them to see this person, whether it's, under supervision or whatever. I'm sure they would craft that, and that's part of the law that's been crafted. So anyway, this was declared. Avo's law was brought into place in December. I think it was December 14th is when they announced it last year. And they actually just passed it on Thursday. I guess Thursday, yesterday. They passed it in the Senate.
Okay.
In Virginia. And it's called the Senate Bill 546, also known as Avo's Law. It was passed unanimously in a Senate committee Jana morning, and it received full support from the Senate and House subcommittee. And as like the governor said, once it comes across his desk, he's going to sign it.
So from the committee, it still has to go to the General Assembly first, and then it will go to the governor's desk.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. So at this point, that's where we are. And this, I think, will help a lot of people. But again, remember, this is Virginia, and I think that this is going to be set a precedent, probably for other states to pass a similar law. And I'm surprised that to date, mental health providers have not, or mental health caregivers or providers have not brought this up before to legislature. And maybe again, it takes somebody passing away for people to actually realize that this is something needed, because our law enforcement are not trained mental health.
I think there's been
providers.
some attempts to get some laws through, But I think it's also important to understand that these state legislatures, they're also sometimes like cartels.
Yes, yeah, like, and
you know-
by the way, this thing didn't just, like, they actually tried to change it, and I think it got to a point, because they passed it unanimously, it got to a point where, like, normally people try to throw things in. They were not allowing that. Those games, the
Yes.
games that they
Yeah,
normally
there's those
play,
games.
of going in and adding at us, we want a river over there. Those
Yeah.
things, that didn't happen.
I know. I wish Annette was here because she can go into detail of how sometimes these local legislatures operate and what you need to do just to get, like
To
a
move
bill,
forward, yeah.
to get a bill to go. Because if a committee cannot take it, because the committees is where bills are, a committee can decide we're not even considering this, and it's never gonna make it to the floor. So that's where, like, I think there are people who had previously tried, but because this was such a public thing, it's very difficult to keep it away from the eyes.
Sweep it under the rug.
It's
yes.
hard to sweep it
Yes.
under the rug.
Yeah.
So I think it's important. There are some organizations that actually craft legislations that go to different, because unasikia a certain law has been passed in so many different states, and you wonder, kwani were these legislators somewhere in a meeting and they decided that this is what they want to do? No, there's certain,
Lobbyists.
yeah, there's certain clandestine
Lobbyists.
organizations that even write some of these laws. And these laws are written by the state. These are the laws that impact your day-to-day more
Correct.
than what Congress will do.
Yeah, because you live in the state.
Yeah.
That's
Like-
what governs what you do.
If you
on
guys
a
remember, there's
daily.
this group. There's a report. There's this group. They are like extreme right, conservative. They are groups, and it's known. What they do is they draft legislation, and they approach guys. That's what they do. They come to Ali or Moshe or whatever. Remember, you guys, this is what we want you to do. We want you to say it this way. Table this.
Yeah.
Lakini election time yako wanakuwekea pesa,
Yeah.
and when those things are passed,
Yeah.
becomes law.
Yeah. It's
So
serious
this is
corruption.
it is not being drafted by the people in the house.
No. It's
Your local house.
It did come from the constituents.
No, it did not. Lobbyists
Yep.
and the powers that be, the people who have the intention. Like now, for example, if let's say they want to pass, if you get arrested, you need and for a DUI, you need to get a mandatory alcohol blow. It's put there. If you get arrested with a DUI, utaweka na hiyo ni pesa, na hiyo pesa inaenda wapi? Inaenda kwa Moshe, whatever.
Yeah. So there are people, and that's a broken part of American politics, which I think needs to be addressed. Otherwise, we are gonna have more January 6th coming up. That's a very broken part of American politics, whereby the whole country, for example, take for example like what's happening in Gaza. About 66 to 70% from different polls want a ceasefire, but the people in Congress, they don't care, because they know that they will still support Israel and there will be no consequence. And that's the worst part,
None.
because of the way the politics is set up. And I think that's that's very problematic.
I was saying Rashida Tlaib, like in Michigan, I don't know if you saw that, where she was telling people to not vote for,
not to vote, to vote uncommitted.
uncommitted,
Yeah.
until Biden does something.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, this 2024, this genocide that's happening in Gaza, Apple, it's gonna.
This
There's
is
an
the worst.
asterisk.
This
There's
is
an
the worst
asterisk
time
when
to
it
run
comes
for
to
office.
Biden.
Like Biden has lost Muslim support to the point where I can't like the way sometimes you would go kwa mosque kutongia na watu to vote nini, you can't even mention him. That's just how bad it is. And
Even when my boy Yasir Kadhi says, you guys pay it, yeah?
when Yasir Kadhi said that, I knew this is a problem, because Yasir Kadhi typically doesn't mention names.
Yeah.
When he mentions a name, it's for very strategic reasons. He'll just leave it there and he'll let people you go, but he'll tell you go make your judgment on it. But
Because he was trying to bring light
yeah,
to Rashida in a positive positive moves that she has made
Yes.
pertaining to
The war in
to the war in Israel and
yeah,
whatever.
the war in Gaza.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And looking less at her support being in the Democratic Party and the
supporting
stances and supporting
LGBTQ.
LGBTQ and all that.
Yeah. Mhm.
And he's like, yeah, this woman, like what she has done, yeah, she has done this. But more importantly, what has she done to support the faith?
Yeah, I mean,
Carry
it's a very pragmatic approach, and I think since he did that talk, people have been a bit warmer to Rashida, because at the end of the day, these
Who
are
is in your
people-
corner?
Yeah, these are people who've they've hung themselves dry. Rashida, the easy thing would have been just to keep quiet and not take sides, or to take the side of Israel, and they would easily get re-elected. But they've put themselves to hang dry. So I think that's something that, I know our community is tough.
Yes.
But I think this is something that that they should just at the moment, this is what we're allying on. We can come fight again in the future over things that we agree and disagree on, but let's work on these things where we are allied.
Because did you see the report where Biden was in Michigan, but he tried to have a meeting with Islam, whatever, wakasema Buddha boss.
No, that's out.
VA okiomaga.
No.
Drying boss.
No, Michigan, most likely, Biden might lose Michigan. He still has a path, to the White House, even after losing Michigan, but it's gonna be that much more difficult. It's gonna be that much more difficult. I have very simple advice to all Democratic activists who have access to Biden in what they can tell him. This is leakage now I'm giving you from the community.
This is the career.
This is leakage that the only way that Biden will get, some of that support back, because there's some of it is lost for good, forever. Yeah, but the only way is for not a ceasefire is not even enough. A ceasefire that comes with a two-state solution, and not that two-state solution of the 90s. We are talking of a two-state solution that has Palestinians in full control of their borders, meaning, they control their territory.
Yeah.
And we go back at the bare minimum. This is the bare minimum to the 1967 borders. And this is the bare minimum. Remember, Israel is already occupying a lot of those spaces.
Yeah, by the way.
So at the bare minimum, we go back to those borders and then have a right of return for all Palestinians who were expelled since 1948 with no conditions. There's almost 10 million Palestinians. There's more Palestinians outside of Palestine than inside.
Don't forget the expulsion even started before that.
The expansion actually started before that.
From even either sides, even before the Balfour Declaration.
Yes,
it started before that.
So it started before
that.
So
we are talking about probably 1890s.
Probably they're not around with us anymore.
Yes.
But I think when you go to masjids, you'll always meet people who'll tell you, I'm a child of the first Nakba. We have people who came to the US when they were maybe 12, 13 years old. And there's some who are still there. They're old right now. And then someone will tell you, oh, my father or my grandfather was in the first Nakba. So unless these people get a right of return, meaning they have a choice, they could go back, because right now they don't. And then the other more important one, Palestine should be allowed to have its own standing military with all kinds of rockets, weapons, Vifaru, all kinds of weapons to defend itself. So if that happens, then maybe there might be some consideration. So this is leakage I'm giving to the people who are in the Biden campaign, political activists out there. Then maybe you might get back that
boss.
But it's, I have never felt, I'll admit I'm a card-carrying Democrat, but I have never felt this helpless in even thinking about going to talk about vote for Joe Biden. It's that bad. And let me be clear, Muslims are not gonna vote for Trump. Yes, maybe there might be exceptions out there, but they're not voting for Trump.
Which means they won't vote. And if they don't vote, they might as well be voting
for him. It doesn't mean they won't vote. So there are other candidates who are being looked at. One candidate who I think fumbled the bag he had a golden opportunity.
John F. Kennedy Jr.
RFK.
Whatever his name is.
Yeah, RFK or... Yeah,
That guy.
Yeah.
Robert, yeah.
He's running as an
Yeah,
independent.
yes.
He's running as an independent.
Yes.
He had a chance, but guess what? He decided to go mainstream. He was like, hey, Mase, we love Israel. Yeah. So he's out. The only one candidate who's actually come out to our protests is Jill Stein. And Jill Stein has run in, I think, maybe 2 or 3 of the last with the Green Party. So he's actually come out to her, and she's been very open on ceasefire. So that's the one candidate who...
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yes, that's the one candidate. So it's not like people are actually being encouraged to go out and vote, because there's so many other seats that you're voting for.
But Ali, I mean, truth be told, at when you look at it, when you get down to it, it's gonna be between, at this point, based upon who we see on the ground, it's between Biden and Trump. So if you don't vote, if say you're a Muslim, and because of Biden's stance you didn't vote for him, and you vote for not Trump but you vote for the other person, you're still voting for Trump.
Logically, I agree with you.
And the only reason I say that is because then now you're doing a division. Those numbers that should have been helping to show up where he needed showing up.
Yeah.
Then that buffer is not there, and because there are some people who you lost in the last one for whatever reason, or maybe they were just not there, and then you want to pick up the new voters, and you also want to pick up the people who were just like being laissez-faire.
So logically, I agree with you. And if this was Ali before on October 6th,
okay,
yes, but now you see the problem.
The point has to be made.
The problem of the depth, because I think the issue, especially with these smaller communities, is that these guys are gonna complain, but the Republicans are very bad guys, so they will still come out and vote for us. But now these guys are realizing that these guys are actually they're not gonna vote for Biden. Now it's sinking in, because when you start seeing and there's results that has come out of that, because initially ceasefire was with very few, Ilhan, Tlaib, and a few others, members of the squad. But now that people are seeing, people are seeing this reality, so there's more people in Congress and in the Senate who are now saying, okay, hapa ni kubaya, let's do something. Because if it was that thing that, they'll think logically and Trump is worse than us, so they will still come and vote for us. If that's the thinking that was kept,
that is muhadhara,
then because ukienda kwa hizo rally, they are telling Biden in November we'll remember.
Yes.
When the first rally that I went for, when I started seeing placards for Genocide Joe, that's when I knew,
Nikubaya.
Nikubaya.
Omosh, let me provide context, just a little bit. Mali unaishi sahi.
Yes.
Askari, militia, military, polisi, wanakuja, wanakutoa, wanakunyang'anya ufunguo, na wanakuambia you can go drain. Vyokiomaga. And that's that. Ama, you've been granted the right to return. Ama they can come, kick you out, or lock you in your house. They can tell you, muende, mwali munalala muende. Wanaenda, wanaingia room yako, wanadoze, go to your fridge, they eat whatever they want, they do whatever they want, they chill there. They can't even stay there for 2 days. Now, huwezi enda job, you have to stay there. Hiyo ni maisha gani kweli, brother?
So this is going to be an interesting year.
It's going to be an interesting
year. But when you're technically looking at it, it's very easy for us, like Muslims in Maryland, Muslims in about 45 states. It's because when you look realistically, there's about 5 states or 6 that determine the US election. When you look at it realistically.
Yes.
So you see, it's, the way I look at it, it's very easy for, I want to say, I mean, I don't have the stats of the distribution, but I know Michigan has the highest number of Muslims in the US, but people in this, if you are California and you're not voting for Biden, that's not going to make a difference. If you're in,
isn't the Muslim population around here in the US like about what 1%?
it's about 1%.
About 1%,
Yeah.
one
People
something.
think we're so many,
But you're
but
not.
it's slightly over 1%.
But still, in places like
But
Michigan,
That's
That 1%.
That's where it matters.
So those numbers
Michigan,
can carry.
yeah, those numbers can,
they can
those
carry.
numbers can sway an election.
Yes.
So I think in
Where?
Michigan, Michigan, I don't even know whether it has the most Muslims.
I think
but
it is
has
that
the
followed
highest-
by
It has
Minnesota.
the highest percentage
Yes.
because states like New York.
Or Muslims who are voting.
No. Just population.
Understood.
Even population. Yeah, because New York and New Jersey actually have a very high number of Muslims.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, I think in Michigan, they might not even be in the top. They might, but as a percentage of the overall population,
You guys are
and that's
high.
and that's where the impact is.
Mm-hmm.
So in Michigan, they're tilting that. In Michigan, they have the power. Like if Biden wins Michigan, I will consider that a miracle. So now he has to fight in these other battleground states.
It's either that or make sure that independence.
Minnesota is not necessarily really battleground, but but I would say it's not necessarily strong Democrat, but it's leaning Democrat.
It's purple.
Yeah.
So I guess what is the electoral college?
So
What's the electoral college?
another dangerous state.
Yeah,
Another dangerous state is Georgia. People have not thought about it.
Oh, where?
Yeah, Georgia can go any which way.
Yes, Georgia, it can be tilted by very few votes.
Actually, the fact that they went them is a tilt.
That was already a tilt.
That's a tilt. So,
That was
So
a
it's
tilt.
holding on to that.
So it's still
It's holding on to that, bro. Because the two senators are Dems.
yeah.
Warnock and also.
Yeah, but everything is about who is going to do this voting. It's not about those guys who are holding. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now, again, if they do what they did to get those two guys in, where can Stacey do what they do, watch as a Kamau?
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Tharakanithi.
Yes, but again,
Tharakanithi in Georgia.
again, if black folks are not into what you're doing,
yeah. By the way, that's another demographic.
That's if they're not into what you're doing,
That's
in
another
terms
that's another
coming out to
problematic
vote, they're not
demographic.
going to vote.
Yeah.
Black women. Forget black men. Black men hapo wanacheza 70s. Hapo wanacheza funny ranges.
And when I say black, I mean both, right?
Yes.
And then there's this demographic of these young folks, the ones who either A, didn't want to vote or were not old enough to vote, and then now they're old enough to vote, but when they're looking at stuff, they're like, I don't see a candidate. Ikai.
Ama ni wase wa J6s. They wanapenda ma J6.
Yeah. So unless I don't know how things are gonna go, but if status quo remains in the conflict in Gaza, then we'll have
It's
we'll
gonna
have some problems.
it's gonna be interesting.
Yeah.
And I think again it's
the
also
worst
messaging
part
with the
for
Democrats.
Biden, he's done so well in the economy. He's done so well, I mean, let's give him credit. Like where
There are so many things that he has done,
Yeah.
but they're not being touted. Okay, and not.
But now
and
when you have 30,000 people who've been killed,
yes,
that's
it overshadows.
it overshadows. Yeah.
And a huge one,
Yeah.
because it doesn't matter what you're doing, and because there are other things that there's a war, there's the genocide that's going on. I would even call it a war. It's a genocide that's going on. Texas and reproductive rights. If there's a battleground for that, ni huko. Wanawake na reproductive rights.
Yeah.
And messaging, because the messaging has to be you have to craft a message, and then you make sure that from now, maybe from March, April, back in November, that is what you're doing. Because
Yeah, unfortunately, Texas is a very red state. So yes.
but you still you still can, because progressive. Because also don't forget the people who have moved from California
Yeah.
to Texas.
By the way, hata Waislamu wengi sana wana move Texas.
Oh,
Kwanza in that Dallas area, yeah, that there's that hotbed which has these are American born scholars, not scholars who came from other countries. that area, I don't know if I shared with you guys those videos of areas where Muslims are moving in Texas, rich Muslim neighborhoods.
You
Texas.
did.
Yeah, so actually the masjid that's in that rich Muslim neighborhood, I came to find out, is the masjid where Yasir Qadhi is the resident scholar. It's called Epic Masjid. It's in Irving, Texas.
Allah?
Yeah, that's where Yasir Qadhi is.
Irving ndio hapo Arlington.
Yeah, so Irving, ni Arlington. How far?
I thought that I
No,
could be wrong.
No, I think Irving.
I don't think it's far, but let them tell us.
Okay, let Texans here, let Dalatians, in the comments, tell us. But that area, there's Irving, and then there's another one. I can't remember what area the other one is. It's also not too far. And now they recently announced an Epic 2.0. So that project that you're seeing of the rich Muslim neighborhoods in Texas, that was 1.0. So there's another one that was announced 2 weeks ago.
Allah?
2.0. Yes, and it was oversubscribed. Because they need $40 million to get the project off the ground. They were giving the community the first 500 people to buy shares that were, I think, $80,000 each. They were oversubscribed within the first 24 hours.
Salale.
So that's where that's where that whole this Islamic scholars who are American born and understand American issues. A number of them. There's Omar Suleiman, there's Yasir Qadhi, and then there's another one called Numan Ali Khan. No, Yasir Qadhi is very, I don't know how to put it. He understands people's emotions and he talks to everyone. He just doesn't talk to Muslims alone. He talks to people of other faiths.
He's spoken to me.
He speaks to other people.
I'm an English box.
Yeah.
Let me see them.
I always tell people, and there was another video I shared, because people sometimes tend to look at Muslims and say, oh, you guys are always united. No, we have our divisions, and some of those divisions are very serious. And there was one where he was talking about overcoming these divisions that we have. They may not sometimes be visible to the outside world, but yes, their divisions.
Was that the one he was in Cincinnati?
No, he was in Mississauga in Canada.
Oh,
yeah, this one he was in Canada.
Did you share?
I think I did. If not, I'm gonna.
Please, nataka kumsikiza.
I'm gonna share it again.
Over here, Washeke is saying, what Humphrey described is reminiscent of Nazi Germany. The irony. I remember somebody put out a meme. It was circulating. It's ideally what the Israelis are doing now. It's what Hitler did.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Wati Mika Och wakati wa sports. Don't forget Arsenal's Ngovo. This past Sunday. Thank you. That's Pablo. Washeke says, but white women are the ones, I guess, who sold us and voted against their interests on reproductive rights.
Yeah.
That sold us on and voted against their rights. Again, Apa, if you guys, okay, there's the book I want to get, by Martin, Roland Martin. There's a fear that's going on. And the fear is that by 2053, and this is common knowledge, you can Google that YouTube people they're going to be a minority.
They're not going to be the majority anymore.
Yes. Yeah. And there's a clamor and a father to want to make sure that bado wakwe wengi.
Yeah.
Yes. Because kwanza hawazai wanaza 1-2.
Yeah, and that's it.
Ama one, and that's it. Lakini ukiangalia
other communities,
Latinos.
Yeah.
Ama should I say Hispanics? Latinos. Unaona family moja iko na watu kaa 7.
Yep.
Watoto 5. Baba na mama wawili. So there's that, and actually wametupita. They are about 13-14%.
And they start young.
They start young.
At 19 mpewa first.
Yes.
Yeah.
By the time she's 25, they are 25, wako na watu 5. So there's also that. And this is threatening, and that is why. And these guys are becoming very, very vocal and very bold because they've been emboldened. We have to protect the white race. They are clearly saying that, and we have to put in place, like now, for example, this thing of DEI, diversity and
Equity and
inclusion. You know, people are being removed, ideally just to make it white. Eco, you may not see it, you may not feel it, but it's there. And it's coming for you. Elections have consequences.
Yes, so I think we're going to get to the last part of the segment, and this, I think, Mike,
you're just going to hand off.
Yes, I'm going to hand this off to you.
But you see, you can hand off, but me, I'm the quarterback. You are the quarterback, I'm the running back. But guess what? It's gonna be, I'm gonna pitch over to that subject matter expert over there to discuss. But
basically, I mean, this here is an article from the Citizen. It says MCSK, that's a Music Copyright Society of Kenya, is unable to account for 56 million shillings in royalties collected in 2023. So it says the MCSK is under fire for failure to account for 56 million collected as royalties in 2023.
Yes.
This was revealed by the Kenya Copyright Board Chairman Joshua Kutunyi on Wednesday, who flagged a disparity in the royalties collected by MCSK, Kenya Association of Music Producers Camp, and the Performance Rights Society of Kenya PRISC last year. So these are the three organizations, the music collective management organizations, and they were invited to meet Kekobo Board of Directors to account for the monies collected in 2023. And from the information presented by the three CMOs, the board said it established that a sum of, I think they say 249 million was collected jointly from January to December 2023. So basically, there's some missing money, and this Kekobo has requested the Department for Criminal Investigation and the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission to open an investigation on the Music Copyright Society of Kenya and their CEO Ezekiel Mutua.
So, and also to provide context, this is coming up because of a tweet that Nonini Mugenge True had posted some time back, maybe about 2 weeks ago. And it was how there was a misappropriation of funds that was happening. Or not, it was misappropriation, but you know, when you look at the headline, how much had been collected and how much was being used to pay for administrative purposes or whatever, and how much was being dished out, that the discrepancy was really alarming. So he tweets, and then Ezekiel Mutua, the current CEO, the head of MCSK, of course, tweets, and they get into this tweet, and lawyers are involved or whatever. So what ends up happening is Moses Kuria comes out and says now that Moses Kuria comes out and says that moving forward, he's gonna suggest to table something where now royalties are going to be collected on eCitizen, through eCitizen. Unfortunately, that is not his docket.
So that's why I was gonna ask.
It's not his docket.
Kuria was speaking at what capacity?
It is not his docket. It's Aisha Jumwa's docket.
Correct. He shouldn't have been speaker. He's a guy of trade.
You remember?
Why is he speaking?
You remember how you're talking about and I wanted to mention that the government currently is so disjointed, even in messaging. The
optics are bad.
People are making their own roadside declarations
on other people's dockets.
Yeah, those are not good.
And Moses Kuria has been he does that all the time. It's not
his docket at all. Kabisa.
Actually, he's an unofficial government spokesman.
He's like a mercenary. You know,
he's the guy you send to do the dirty work.
But that's why I say he's an unofficial government spokesman, because he speaks not in an official capacity. And then now, if you want to fire arrows at him, fire them. But he's already done the work.
He's already done the work.
And he didn't start yesterday. He was doing this in UK's government.
I think what Moses Kuria does is that I think this is done with some sense of unofficial officialdom. Is just go throw this out there.
See what happens.
Let's see how the public will react to it. And then, you know, if it's a bad reaction, we can say, oh, no, it's Moses Kuria who said it, we're not. But if the public embraces it, then, so I think that's a tactic.
It's a tactic
that the government has been
using.
using.
By the way, let me give a big shout out to Nonini.
Nanene.
He has career. He just bagged the Pulse Music Video Award yesterday. With for the international reggae nominated for the International Reggae and World Music Awards that will be going down in Florida March 22nd. So the Pulse Award that they got was him and Temi for the remix of Kiroro.
Okay,
So anyway, so Moses Kuria does what he does. So now they start getting into a tiff between him and Aisha because ideally, yo, my man, you're in my docket. Higher. Twitter. We see a post of Aisha Juma, Kekobo guy, and so Aisha puts out a statement. I had a brief meeting today with the chairman of Kenya Copyright Board, Joshua Kutuni, and the executive director, Edward Sigei, this afternoon. Our discussion centered on performance of licensed CMOs, payment of royalties, Thought e-Citizen, and the prospect of a GOK collective management organization. The ministry is looking at directing all payments through the e-Citizen platform in line with the presidential directive. This may include the collection of royalties through e-Citizen platform, which is under active consideration. We also spoke about the draft copyright bill now awaiting cabinet decision. We agreed on the need to involve all stakeholders in discussions on all the above to improve industry. I emphasized on the need for accountability in the sector, especially on the royalties that are a source of income for thousands of artists in the country. I wish to urge investigative agencies to expedite the investigations into alleged mismanagement of funds at the Music Copyright Society of Kenya. So that came out after that meeting. So what more, like you said, whatever Moses Kuria threw, the person in charge of the docket ideally accepted it, but in a way said it was something that it's a proposal that we're looking into. So all funds to go into to be collected through e-Citizen.
Yeah, but I think already, like throwing that in the public, sometimes it's testing to see what the public reaction is going to be.
Yes.
Let's say like they wanted to see what the reaction from the music family is going to be.
So now, here's the interesting thing. So Ezekiel Muto was interviewed on Spice, the Situation Room. And, he goes into how it's managed, what they do, how they're supposed to do to run, what's going on. Talking about, it was in arrears, KRA, they owe the KRA. He called all the stakeholders, told them, we're going to go into a payment plan. We have to pay this. And that is why, apparently, according to him, because they have to pay all this, that the monies are being diverted to pay what they owe in taxes. Whatever is left is being disbursed. But whatever is left, the administrative costs and whatnot. That is fine. And then now
that is not fine.
No. Wait, let me finish, bro. Calm down. I know. Okay, it's not fine, but it's what he said.
Yeah.
Then the report comes out that they're about to gazette disbursements that are supposed to happen, I believe, in April.
Yeah.
For what they collected the last quarter or this quarter. He said something about disbursing and gazetting disbursement to all stakeholders, 16,000 members or whatever. And then this report comes out of the 56 million or whatever. For me, what is more concerning is I'm not hearing a lot of registered members of MCSK siski wakisema I'm not seeing the hula baloo, the noise that needs to be made. Fine, they had that press conference with the UDA, with
Rafton.
Yeah, Rafton, the UDA guy of that area.
Yeah.
But then after that, you haven't heard anything. I threw, there's a creatives group, I just threw in the Ezekiel Mutua interview, and they said, this guy is a thief or whatever, and that's that.
Yeah.
that is what is more concerning, because it's like either at this point guys don't care and they're like, watch a yende. I mean, as long as I get mines, me I'm okay. Of course, he listed, there was a list. Kutunyi read a list of guys who were supposed to have made money, about 10 of them.
Yeah, and how much they were given and how much they were supposed to make.
Yes.
That was a lot of money.
Yeah.
You're talking about 500,000-600,000 Kenya shilling discrepancy.
Difference. Yeah.
Yeah,
they were 6 times.
Yes.
Because basically whatever you got, you would make 6 times of whatever you got.
But I think that number is based on, I think MCSK right now is disbursing, I think about, is it 10% of what they collect? But they're supposed to be, so according
70.
They're saying it's 70. Now this 70% number, because mnajua mi kawaida yangu, I have to go and open the hood kuangalia engine kukona nini huko ndani. So here's the thing, and artists, like, please, because me I'm looking at the law as the law is. So the Copyright Act does not have a 70% number. What the Copyright Act does is that it gives the right to Kekobo to regulate, and there's another word they use. It gives them a right to do certain things. So now the issue is, does the Copyright Act have a right to mandate 70%? That's what's in court. And the courts have not determined that. So the stay that was given, because this case is still in progress, the stay that was given was for MCSK to continue doing, like, whatever they're doing.
For all the CMOs.
Yeah, for all the CMOs, until it's determined. However, the music fraternity is saying that Kekobo has the right to do this. And that's okay, but this thing is in court. The court is the one that's going to make a determination. Because MCSK is saying this is an agreement between the CMOs and the artists. Like when you have the Copyright Act mandating, it's going to be interfering with what's supposed to be an agreement between the artists and that's the problem that we have right now. The other problem that I'm also seeing, like as a bystander, because I'm not an artist, the other problem that I'm seeing also with the artists, and I can understand, like they're frustrated with the current setup, but I think this is like what the government is proposing. I don't know who came up with that e-citizen proposal, because to me this e-citizen proposal is, in character of this government, is another solution looking for problems. Yeah, that's a solution, because e-citizen already has, we're already experiencing a lot of problems with this e-citizen thing, because money is going to a consolidated fund and there's no money being ring-fenced. So hii pesa ya royalty inaweza kupatikana and then iende kulipa deni. And that's what are you going to say?
Yes.
Yeah, because it's going, e-citizen, it's going to a consolidated fund. And that's the reason why, like there's some delays in processing of passports, because this money that's being received, it's going to this fund, whereby it's supposed to be for hii kazi. Ni kama unapatiwa pesa ya school fees, but then you decide that, let me go buy clothes with this, or let me go loan Mosh, because I'm gonna loan him some chums, and then because he said I might get a 10% or 15% return. So something like that.
Yeah.
So and I know, artists are looking at this, and this is another channel where we can get our rightfully owned money, but then they also have to think about this way. This is not going to happen overnight. Remember, we're in 2024. 2027 is coming close. What happens when we're close to elections? Governments look for support from artists, because they know artists have a certain influence on a certain segment of the population. Remember what happened in the 2022 elections. Yeah, the artists were promised, there were so many things. The Baka, they went and sat on wheelbarrows.
Brown envelopes.
Yeah, they sat on wheelbarrows.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's another chap we know who went there.
Yeah,
Actually, there were 2.
Yeah, so you see.
Calligraph Jones?
No, Kali did not.
Kali was there.
Kali.
No, there were two chaps who went, who we know. One even said alipata brown envelope. Ule mwingine alienda kuhekol.
But now you see, our artists, what after election iliisha, they were all dumped. So I think artists need to learn their lesson and they need to understand they're in this thing by themselves, because this idea is similar to housing levy. You know the way this government throws ideas and then tries to see how the public
How it will stick. Which one will
react.
stick? If
Yeah.
it sticks, great. If
And
it
then they
doesn't
find a
stick,
problem.
and then they go find a problem huko mbele ya safari. So I mean, this is jumping from a frying pan to another frying pan.
But this MCSK issue has been consistently brought up. This didn't start yesterday.
No.
It didn't start last year.
No.
It didn't start the year before that. This has been, I would venture to say, I'm going to give it 4 years that they've been really crying hard about it. And by 4 years, I think I'm being generous. But ever since MCSK started, artists have never gotten their their dues that they're supposed to get the way they're supposed to be getting it. And the algorithms, or whichever way that they're doing their calculations,
The
it's
scientific
like
distribution.
like nobody really knows what this
It's
distribution.
opaque.
We don't.
It's
Even us-
basically a check that's given. In fact, I'm surprised that there was someone on that list who got 700 and something thou.
Now I think
They
because
were
it's in the
supposed
public
to.
spotlight. I
No,
think because,
Alipata.
Olipata.
but
Yes.
they're supposed to get more.
Alipata, you're
They're
700.
supposed to get 4
Yeah,
point something million, I think.
No, well, if they do the 70% allocation,
Yeah.
which means they're multiplied by 6.
And you know the thing is, we have to give, you give props where props are due. Eric Omondi has been trying to push for the 70-30 to be, or is it 80-20? But
no,
70-30
to be legislated.
To be legislated. To
Yes.
be enacted.
No,
to be.
I thought the 70-30 it wasn't that. The 70% was for play. Airplay.
That
Correct?
one, yeah. That,
Yes,
to
because
be-
that will
that's-
then mean
Oh, that was airplay.
That
yeah.
was airplay,
that
yeah.
will mean that then now your music is going to be played.
Yes.
And more plays equates
money.
to more money.
Yeah.
Because
But
if you
also, the other thing that had been happening, if you guys do remember, before this whole talk of this allocation of monies and royalties, was the whole issue of media houses not playing ball correctly because they were not paying for those licenses. You remember there's like a license that they're supposed to be, they're supposed, and that it's an entertainment license. The media houses were not paying for this entertainment licenses. Or when I say media houses, I mean like, let's say TV. So unapata
media
radio,
house, yeah,
radio wanalipa, but TV hawalipi. So kuna pesa zingine zimeka. So these guys are like, they're playing, but they're not paying. And they were kind of like, it's almost like they were fighting it. There was something that they were fighting. And there was an issue about these licenses where it even went back to DJs even being arrested. Remember when DJs were getting arrested? Because they were not, the establishments didn't have a license. And so the DJ is the one who's getting arrested because he's playing music.
He's playing music.
At this venue. He's the employee of the place. You should be arresting the
You should
owner.
arrest the owner. And you know where
Yes.
the owners are.
And the owner, those are the people who should be arrested. But the DJ gets arrested and his equipment is confiscated. And sometimes it's good luck if you get your equipment or you get all of it.
they were pulling the same thing, they were doing the same thing KRA is doing. Where
Yes.
they're just sending boots on the ground.
Yeah.
Sema, hey, Gade,
They're sending mercenaries.
uko na ebu tuoneshe hii. Ebu tuoneshe.
You know, like
They're walking door. They're
Yes,
walking
walking
actually
door to
door
door.
to door. They're walking door to door and saying, "Who over here is renting?" Then they
Yes.
say, "Oh, these ones are renting." They ask the watching, "Who over here is renting?" And I'll kid you not, that's the actual thing they do. Who over here is renting? Then say, "Oh, okay, those guys are renting. Okay, then give them these letters."
To give them.
Yes,
Okay,
there are
yeah,
letters
yeah,
that
yeah.
they have letters that they have, and those letters are given. They notate on their book. Say, okay, this estate, house number ABCDFG ni watu wana rent, which means mwenye nyumba akona kodi yetu.
yeah.
Tutamwona huko mbele.
Now, from that list that was released by Kekobo of 10 artists, I mean, it's also a very simplistic list. But I mean, I think what they did is they got these numbers and they multiplied them by 6 because
Correct.
Because I'm looking at the factors. Because number one, and this goes to show you that the people who get paid in Kenyan music are not the people that we think. Because I think these are numbers for 2023.
This is last year.
It's last year. So Rehema Lugose.
Who is Rehema Lugose?
I'll confess I don't know who she is.
I think she's I could be wrong. I think she's gospel.
I'll
but I
confess
could be wrong.
I don't know who she is, but she received the highest amount at 757,000.
Yep.
yet you're supposed to get 4.5 million. This is according to Kekobo. And then number 2 is Ruben Kigame. Ruben Kigame, I think, is a guy who
He's a blind guy. He's a gospel artist too.
122K. So from 757 all the way down, number 2 is at 122K. This is what you're getting all year for royalties, and you're the second highest. He was supposed to get 734 all the way. Sasa the one artist that we're familiar with is number 3, Otile Brown. Imagine Otile Brown and the way his music has been playing all over, 120K. 120K.
Kwanzaa, he's the highest on YouTube. For Kenyan,
wow.
For Nini artists.
For Kenyan artists?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Otile the highest. Unless things change,
but
Otile the highest.
Like Ezekiel Mutuva said, you two there mean whatever.
No, but I'm
views
just...
don't mean... I know what you're saying.
Yes.
But you hope that those views translate into ka-ching-ching, but carry on.
Then there's, on this list, there's another artist called Marakwet Daughter. Miss him, Jui. Steve Kasolo. I don't know him. Joseph Ngala. I don't know him. Praise McKenna. Simjui. Musaimo. At least Musaimo.
You know.
And Musaimo number yake angalia.
Number 8. I received 98,000.
What is
was
that?
supposed to get 588,000. Then there's another one called Solomon Mukubwa. And all these artists I don't know, I blame Omosh, because Omosh is the one who feeds me with Kenyan music. Solomon Mukubwa.
Let me see who the Emma Lugosa is.
I don't know. And then there's another one called Steve K. Maybe there's something that we don't know about Kenyan music that the masses do. Because I'll be honest, on this list, I'm only familiar with Otile Brown. Hao wengine wote, at least I know Ruben Kigame.
I think that Marakwet Daughter...
I know Ruben Kigame because he ran for
Marakwet Daughter is... I think you know her, but you just don't know her as that name.
I don't know she's...
Yes.
No, I know that that Kale chick was called... Is she called Msupaes or something like that? I can't remember her name. But that might be a different... The one who did a collab with Calligraph.
No, I know that. I think that one is different.
Yeah. There was
one...
I
thought you were going to... I thought it's not
but
the one who came...
But you see over here, and I think Pablo agrees with me. I think, he says, one Mike, you nailed it. The purported MCSK members don't speak up. Those that come to those press conferences don't show up at the AGM meetings and vote. Again, I think for me, we are the consumers. We don't understand what it goes into. I mean, having dealt with now people like Akina Nonini, Red Sun, Alikiba, this guy, Ali, this other Ali guy, your other Ali guy.
Alikiba.
No, this other Ali, Arrow Boy.
Yeah.
You start seeing and understand what it takes to even produce a song, a music, whatever. And then even with Ted Josiah's career, note or whatever, or, whatever he posted, what it takes, because you have the studio session, the session guys, the guitar players, all those guys. It's an ecosystem in itself, and all those guys need to eat.
Yeah.
Right? But you can't just have Ted Josiah say something and Nonini say something, right? Those are the guys who seem to be saying something.
Yeah, they seem to be saying something. Everybody else
is quiet. Most of the heavy hitters are not saying anything.
They're not saying anything.
They're not saying anything. And I'm gonna, if we can also share, if you can, post the interview with the entertainment lawyer that was interviewed on Spice.
Yeah.
Right?
That was a very good interview.
It was a good interview. It was eye-opening on what needs to be done, what is lacking, how MCSK came to be. Yeah. President Moi was complaining that why is there no Kenyan music being played in radio stations, and commissioned an inquiry like, I want a report. But in essence, what the report said was, we need to, they didn't talk about, they're not saying to play music, let kids learn to play music, learn music or whatever. That way, I think, and I guess that was the thinking back then, that now these guys will now get into music and start producing. But from an aspect of, there was no digitization back then. There wasn't a TCG, publishing and all that. I don't think they understood that. But at least, even M1, alikuwa najua, we need to be playing more Kenyan music. Why are we not playing more Kenyan music?
Yeah.
So, there needs to be more than just Nonini making noise and Ted Josiah.
Yeah.
Ted Josiah, he's moved on to Joka Jok, former producer, but
I think the problem with the music fraternity, and you could correct me, and I'm glad Nonini, previously had boxed himself with this administration, and then he came out and apologized. So I think musicians need to realize they're on their own. There's no political side that's on their side. They need to have their own side, like where there's no politics. Because I think the problem that's there right now is that there's some artists or there's some people in the industry who are looking and they're like, I might eat from this government, so let me not.
It's my turn to eat.
Yeah, it's my turn to eat, so let me not raise the fire. Yeah, so I think that's a problem that's there. Because my thinking is if these numbers are true, and I mean, I don't know, like if the top artist, and I don't know how much artists, generally make, like on the other platforms and on everything they do. But to me, if the top artist is getting 4 million, and then number 2, let's say now they're getting their legit amounts, like a Kobo is saying, number 2 is getting 700,000. Is that really gonna move the needle in our music industry? Because I'm trying to think.
Well,
even when I think 700,000, if you're the number 2 artist in Kenya, to me that's still very.
But I think also
that's very small money.
It's algorithms, right?
Yeah.
You also have to look at the algorithms, and then, like, for instance, this Rehema Lugose person is actually not even necessarily an artist. They are publisher. They have the publishing rights, which means aundi wanakula pesa ya hizi wimbo. Na kono wimbo ngapi? 3 at the same time on Billboard, or I'm saying Billboard, but
on rotation.
On rotation. Yeah. So it's again that it's the airplay rotations, and that's how. So the more songs you have out there, the more you're gonna make.
And the more, let's say, for example, if you're the producer, if you're the one who made the beat and everything, you'll kula more. Or essentially utakula more.
Yes. But now, typically, when it comes to the revenue stream of an artist, let's go to countries where these systems work. And here maybe we might have to do some guesswork.
You have to guess a guesswork.
Maybe someone can go to Gemini and GPT to check. What is the biggest part of? Let's talk about just an average artist. What's the biggest part of their revenue? Is it performances?
Yes.
Is it royalties?
It's performances.
It's performances, meaning concerts.
Okay.
Yes.
Right.
Going on the road.
Going on the road, you make your money, and that's
where the big money.
Yes. So, and you're not paying back to, say, the record company, blah blah blah. That's literally money that's going in your pocket and minus expenses. So, if the record company is footing your expenses, like kusema, to lease the bus for you, to pay for hotel room. So
the producer and all these other people who took part, the deal is, that depends on the agreement that you had.
Okay. So assumption, with most artists now in the US, they own their own tracks.
Yeah.
Right? Which means watakula hizo do. Okay? They'll eat on the back end and on the front end. Now, if you don't own the track, it doesn't mean you can't perform it. It's just that the agreement you have with the producer is that they are allowed, when you go to perform live on stage,
you eat 100%.
You'll eat that money. Because when you una perform. But when it comes to sasa hizi mambo za royalties, sijui radio play, sijui nini, yeye ndio sasa yeye ndio anakula. Sasa wewe utatengeneza pesa yako ukienda huko barabarani.
So like in a Beyonce and Taylor Swift, a big part of their income comes from the road.
100, I wouldn't say 98%. Ni easy when you're talking the music part. Yeah. It is shows.
Wow. That's where they're so big.
That's where they're making their money. Yes. And then even booking them, you have to go through a certain channel.
So now my question, if this is the part in countries where systems work, if this is the part where maybe 90%, or let's even call it 80% of the income is coming from, there seems to be so much energy on issue your royalties.
Correct.
Which is their right, because it's their work.
Absolutely.
They deserve to be paid.
Yes. Now you see, with royalties, when I'm no longer active, that's where I'm going to eat.
That's where the money is going to be coming from.
Right? Unless I get a gig on a cruise ship, or a
go on tour, or a residency,
or
like Boys to Men.
Yes, or Alias called me to a gig, or I've gone to Dubai. So my performances have dwindled. I'm not making the performance money.
So that's your 401k,
right? Correct. And remember, it's not just in one place. Quote unquote, is supposed to be worldwide. Meaning, if my track is being played in Kenya, MCSK is supposed to be collecting on my behalf,
because they have agreements
and sending to me.
Okay.
Sasa hizi agreements hapo ndio sasa kuna mchezo wa paka na panya. So it's not, they're supposed to be enforcing, but it's almost like it's not everybody's getting that benefit of a doubt. And I think some of these larger artists, there are people who do their publishing, whether they are with ASCAP or they are with BMI, and there's a third one for within the U that operate within the US. I forget what the third one is.
Yeah.
If it's any one of these guys, they normally would go back for these larger artists, whoever it is that's running their catalog. They would go back and make sure that they have some sort of agreement with these guys, because they know this is a popular artist, because their stuff is going to be played on radio. And if it's being played on radio and it's being recorded correctly, scientific, whatever it is, then that means that at the end of time X, MCSK will collect money on behalf of Beyonce and then forward it over to ASCAP, and ASCAP would then forward it to her. So at the end of the year, kuna kachek kanakuja. So tuseme wase kama BGs bado wanakula do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mick Jagger and them.
I know. Michael Jackson, all these people, they're still their estates in this big money.
It is in this publishing where they're making money. But when you're still active and you can go on the road, your money is coming from Kwenda Wembley Stadium and Ume shut down operation.
And don't forget,
so that's why these Afrobeat artists are making a big killing.
Where will you na post your Top Down banner in Chicago?
Yeah, I saw it.
You saw that? Forget the people, the stage.
I know.
Did you and even where he had his artists?
Yeah,
those guys were on 4th floor. Now you go up. I was like, okay, this set is not a joke.
That set is not a joke.
And to let you know, let me first read Samba's podcast, because he's complaining I'm not reading his. So he asked a question and said, but isn't music a trade? Let me see. Where is it? But isn't music a form of trade if you look at it from a different perspective?
Nothing. Nothing.
Yeah.
Let him not cheat us. That's music has never been a trade.
Okay.
If that's the case, then the trade guys would enter any part where money is exchanging hands. That is not true.
So he says, my opinion, musicians are like politicians, and Ali has a point there. I ask about akina Blinky Bill, Modoni, the drama queen, Juakali.
What is he asking about Blinky Bill, Juakali, and Mudhoni? Because Blinky Bill is a guy who is, he's a DJ, he's an artist, he's a producer, he owns his own stuff. So nakula pesa zake siji maraine. He's eating in all these areas, all these facets.
Yes.
He's a guy playing the music. He's the guy who wrote the music. He's a guy who's performing the music. And then he's also the guy who owns the music. So he's going to eat in one of these areas. Atakula pengine na Prisk, atakula na Camp, na atakula na MCSK. Because he's in every category. So atakula maraine, as opposed to sema wewe unakula mara moja juu you don't own the track. Hypothetically.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So but him, because he has all of these facets, he has the producer, he has this, he has that. Atakula all those places. And the only way that these guys become independent with their stuff is they have to learn to understand that this thing, their music is not, it's an asset. You have to own every single facet of it for it to be valuable for you, and not only you, but even generations to come. And that's where these things of these copyright and all of these things and royalties are coming in, because God forbid you pass away, guess what? Your family is still going to eat.
Yes. 100%.
Beatles is a prime example.
Patrick says, I can only talk about myself. I don't represent anyone. I'm more affected by local politics, from school districts, property taxes and referendums, state level on terms of security and infrastructure, also national level. As for Biden or Trump, 254 politics is not a priority, but I appreciate the way you highlighting both countries.
Patrick, quick question. Do you have any family in 254? Do you send any money? If yes, then yes. Whether you like it or not, 254 politics is asking you. But if your whole family is here and you don't send any money to Kenya, then you're good to go. This is an unscientific research that I conducted. Kenyans are spending between $5 to 30% of the annual income on remittances to Kenya. That's a big part. That's a big part of your income. Ukisabu 10 years, what you remit in 10 years, sometimes it might be enough to buy you a home. So that goes to show you.
It's a heck of a lot.
Yeah.
Ali, I can tell you for free.
Yes.
Forget hata remittances. Unaona hizi chama zetu za matanga. Zile wewe waganasikiaga tu kwa hewa. The amount of money that people remove, if you look at the balance sheet, like zile, let's say from the time they started to date, ama you give it even a 3-year, and you look at that amount of money, you won't believe that hizo pesa zote zimeenda kwa watu wamekufa.
Gathe, there's a solution for that.
It is
Africa Welfare Association.
Wamelipa. Wewe unasema nini?
I am just saying.
Wewe ebu tuma your check.
That's all I'm going to say. There already is a solution for that. Munataka kuepuka michango. Munataka if it's killing you, because we are getting more and more and more and more.
But the question is, are those people with insurance saying no to michango?
When you say other people with insurance saying no, what are you saying?
Well,
I have insurance,
and then WhatsApp group inafunguliwa like apana musijali mimi niko na
Ali, this is the part where tradition kicks in.
Not even that.
When I say tradition, I'm nasema sisi tumezoea, because ni ile ya okay, if I have insurance na watu sasa wanataka kunichangia. You guys decide, okay, we are going to changa for Mosh. You kick me out of the group, and then you guys form na munachanga pesa na munaniletea. I don't even have a chance to say no.
Again,
are we together? And then
I'm with you on that one.
And then the other thing about it also is that our people,
but let me ask the question the other way. Is there ever an intent of saying no?
I think some people actually do have intent. I think some people do have intent.
Okay,
now, do they actually practice it? I think very rare. I think very, very
because
rare.
Here's another
in fact, ile maguta will be bought.
Again, this is, you remember when we had Alan Keguro, he said, you cannot police that in a sense, because if somebody doesn't come out and say, I don't need, bado, muta, bado watu whatever. And I think it now becomes one of those, a matter of principle.
It's a matter of principle.
It's a matter of
and
principle.
The reason I bring this up is part of this insurance, of course, is for ourselves to make sure that we're not caught off guard, like when we lose a family member. But a bigger part of it is also for the community.
Not to burden the community. 100%.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying, there's a solution.
When it's solving it at a personal level, but then it's also leaving, like the community at the same level it was before, because these things are still happening. I think that's something that that needs to be addressed.
It should be addressed, but I also think that what should be pushed more are the solutions that are already there and that are practically working.
Yes,
like it is there.
No,
for those in Maryland, the MDKO,
I agree,
that one works.
Because I think what people sometimes don't realize, it's easy to say, watu walichanga tu na watu walichanga tu na mimi sikuambia wachange. It's easy to say that, but then when you look at from an overall community perspective, now we're in a situation, I'll be honest, I don't contribute to all WhatsApp groups I'm added to. You can't. Because sometimes you're added to 5. There was a time I used to be sufficiently philanthropic where I would do $100 on each, but then these things were coming like 4 or 5 in a month.
You can't.
It
becomes you have to choose.
Yeah, so the $500, $500 may not be a lot to you, but then you can't. So inafika point where you have to reduce it. I can't do $100. I have to do like 50, and then inafika point where you have now to segregate. But now the problem is that now when you have to segregate, there are those that are actually in need who may miss out because there's 10 others that came.
And that is why we are going to push the solutions such that even the ones who cannot manage my challenges, our is already there. Just go to Africa Welfare Association.org, go to the website, sign up.
Another half solution.
I am telling you.
Another half solution, or maybe even I'll say 3/4 of a solution, is Barry here.
And by the way, even our takes care of you here.
Yeah,
and repatriation.
Yes.
Simple.
Yeah.
From the morgue
Yeah.
to when you're interned.
Yeah, I think,
That's
it's the
it.
same thing when a lot of people are moving from rural areas to Nairobi.
Mm-hmm.
There used to be a lot of movement, bodies back to the rural area, but at some point people started accepting being buried in Langata.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
if
I think...
not Luos.
and then with the option with our being there, it's giving you that option. Yeah, pelekwa nyumbani.
Yeah.
And again, have these conversations. And inshallah, we're going to bring our here. Again.
Wait, you've mentioned them how many times? I'm counting. Wewe nitaanza kukucharge.
$100 per mention.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now
It's in less than an hour and you have 30 to 20 minutes amewa mention mara ngapi?
That's
10.
like 37 times.
So tukifanya na hiyo rate yetu. Lawrence, piga simu.
Lawrence Moraya. Wahenga walinena kilicho na mwanzo hakina budi kuwa na mwisho. Meli imetia nanga. We are about to wrap this puppy up. Kwanza tumeenda overtime. Omosh!
OT.
Mpaka hata kuku yangu imeenda. Akinyinyi watu. I'm done with you guys. If you guys cannot finish this show on time, mutamaliza.
So Swahili Village is still open. You go pay $120 for a meal.
I don't have a problem with doing that when I have money.
Yeah, I know. You have the insurance
You have
money.
the insurance money.
Yeah,
Jesus.
so-
Kwani pesa ya insurance mtakula watu wangapi? Kuna watu washaenda Maldives na wakarudi. Kuna wasee wasiji mbele ya tent, nyuma ya tent.
Wacha tukule
sideways
Swahili
ya
Village
tent.
kwanza. Tukule Swahili Village
And by
kwanza.
the way, he's supposed to be wrapping it up. Anafanya nini? Anapiga kanandre.
It doesn't matter. At this point, I've been screwed out of my chicken. Anyway, guys, thanks for coming through to the show. As usual, this committee of comedians and the layers. It's
I was waiting to be called Kinyangarika.
No, it's another Friday. We are on the block. I'm happy to be back, safe and alive. You guys, those of you who listen to my story, heard my story, and my fans, thank you. We'll be here next week. Yep, God willing, tuko hapa next week. And guess what? Ramadan is around the corner, so mujipange. If you see Ali looking a little bit sijui, I don't know what's going on. So pia wewe, alhamdulillah, uende ukamsaidie. Na inshallah, tutaonana next week.
All right. Asante sana DJ Moshfire. Next week, I think we are hosting an MCA from Kenya. We'll let you know who he is.
Yes.
It will be a very interesting episode. Like this will be the first MCA to
Yes.
show up on the one mic. We've hosted previous
From
were they
Nakuru County.
MCAs? Yeah, from Nakuru County.
Yes.
A long time ago, back in
Yes.
Matchbox Studios.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we're gonna host an MCA next week, so stay tuned for that. And of course, I wanna thank all our fans for tuning in. And give us comments. Let us know who you want us to host this year. And text us, call us, inbox us, everything, and share. Na kwa hayo machache, yeyote ambaye anataka kunipigia simu, nambari yangu bado ni ile 1-800 mteule. Na operator akishika simu, mwambie unataka kusema na mjukuu, na akikuuliza ni mjukuu yupi, mkumbushe ni mjukuu yule wa Masai, because I'm Kenyan by blood, American by design, Masai by choice. Sichagui, sikagui, na sibagui. Kwaherini.
I have to read this comment. Mitch, The Lion's Share on Netflix explains how the connections of publishing na royalties go missing. Documentaries. Aiden, Daddy loves you. Jerry, Daddy loves you. Nimo, Daddy loves you. Until next week, be blessed. DJ Machachari Boda Boss. Kathe, karike. Hakuna mziki.
Next week.
Okay, sawa.
Wewe si unajua vile si wakati tunafinywa hapa alafu bado unauliza maswali, siweke tu pause.
We, Kathe,
And then Washeke amesema,
Eh.
even for burial here, Kenyans still budget the same amount as if the burial is in Kenya.
Finje. Surely.
Atirere.
Ini.
Because gutire gokoe.
Eh.
Dogo dhaka okay, ni sawa. Until next week, be blessed.